to make the case for why the minority is not in agreement with the Supreme Court ruling, and we'll also at least will be sitting down with a gentleman to look into the newspapers.
Thank you very much. WhatsApp 055-556-1034. There's a conversation on ear infections at 6:30. In Chi, you say ear would be what? So.
In Fanti, we say waswa.
Okay, and guys, two.
Otui.
Two. All right, so that's something to look forward to. WhatsApp number 055-556-1035. I'm asking the question: would you park your car and take public transport with the way the fuel things are going?
We hear it might hit 10 or 11 cities.
Yes, and would you want a bike to work? But it's not just two of us who are here.
Nope.
Yes, she's here herself.
Good morning, guys. Machi. Awinipa in Kasa. Good morning, guys. So, yeah. On this side, we'll be looking at what's trending. We'll be looking at what's trending, and we'll be looking at stolen crates and how they pose a risk to commuters. That's what we'll be keeping an eye today, and we'll be having the newspaper review, and we'll be interspersing it with lots of. So they'll be jazzing up our show, guys. So that's what to look forward to here. The hashtag to follow is GTV Breakfast. You can send your comments, videos, and anything you want us to know to our WhatsApp number, which is 055-556-1034. Remember, we are streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. We're interactive on Twitter and Instagram, guys. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Rich Cultural, making us look so culturally rich. Find them on Instagram, Rich Cultural 2. Coming up at 7 o'clock is the sports news, but at 6 o'clock, Mount Titi brings you all the news in the palm of her hand. Welcome to breakfast for the 16th of March. Yeah, Ma'munina Akwaba Marching.
That's good morning. Thank you for joining us on GTV Breakfast News at 6 a.m. I am Malti Tisaida Sadiq. We are live on Facebook to Other Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. We'll be looking at President Akufo-Addo condemning coups in Africa, and also how the minority calls on government in land borders, as well as the brouhaha surrounding the sale of the Accra Psychiatric Hospital. Let's start off from President Akufo-Addo says statements condemning coup d'etats are not enough and will achieve little or nothing to deter coup plotters, as is the case in some parts of Africa recently. Nana Akufo-Addo believes this problem requires collective agreement, effective deterrence, bold action, and adequate preventive measures. These were his remarks in Accra at the opening of the African Union Reflection Forum on unconstitutional changes on the continent in Accra.
It was Africa's new wind of change as a wind of democracy blew across the continent in the 90s, with a good number of the 54 countries parting ways with military rule. However, a report from the African Center for Strategic Studies show that 24 out of the 54 countries on the continent have adopted democratic governance and have refused to respect term limits. On the other hand, 21 countries uphold constitutional rule, and Ghana, often described as a beacon of hope and oasis of peace, is one of the examples on the continent, and hence the selection of Accra as the host of AU Forum on Constitutional Changes in Government. The chairperson of the AU Peace and Security Commission, Professor Mafa Sajanamani, said this is the first time in the history of the AU that 4 countries, including Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso and Sudan, have been suspended due to unconstitutional changes of government. He described it as a wake-up call to Africa to seriously reflect on governance structure.
If we fail to take into account the will and legitimate expectations of our citizens, or continue to manipulate our constitutions, we will continue to create a recipe for more popular uprising, military takeovers, and unconstitutional changes of government.
The resurgence of the military in some part of Africa is not only counterproductive to the socio-economic aspirations of the youth, but also to breaking the back of poverty, which has been an albatross around the neck of the continent. And to the AU, the antidote to this challenge is to enhance early warning systems among members.
I entreat this forum to have an eye on the aspirations already decided by our leaders under Agenda 2063. Aspiration 3, trying to build an Africa of good governance, respect for human rights, justice, and the rule of law.
President Akufo-Addo said the Accra Forum shows unwavering commitment to reject coup d'etats on the continent and the drive to deepen democratic governance, but he cautioned against the trend where manipulation of constitutions are now the norm to extend presidential tenures.
As much as the drivers are largely domestic, the international dimension cannot be overlooked. Foreign involvement in fomenting unconstitutional changes, often in favor of repressive governments, foreign economic interests, and other would-be geopolitical benefits, are contributory factors. Some foreign entities regard coups in Africa as a means of enhancing their regional ambitions. As such, they engage in all sorts of disinformation campaigns in a bid to disparage the authority of democratically elected governments and instigate opposition protests against incumbents.
The outcome of the Accra Forum will be high on the agenda of the AU Extraordinary Summit scheduled for the capital of Equatorial Guinea, Malabo, in May this year. Edward Nyakun reporting.
Now, the minority in parliament is asking government with immediate effect to open the country's land borders for the free flow of goods and persons among neighboring ECOWAS countries and the world at large. At a news conference on Tuesday, the minority leader, Mr. Haruna Idrisu, admitted that the world is not out of the woods yet, but said normalcy should at least be restored with the movement of goods and services through land borders.
I'll call on President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, the President of the Republic of Ghana, supported by his Minister for Health and Minister for Interior, to take urgent practical steps for the reopening of Ghana's land borders, to allow for free flow of persons and goods across ECOWAS and the rest of the world. Post-COVID, we are not out of the woods yet, but we want to see a return to normalcy with the movement of goods and services through our borders. And therefore, whatever proactive measures government needs to take, there can be no justification for the continuous closure of Ghana's land borders. Therefore, as a minority, our primary concern this afternoon is to call on the President as chair of ECOWAS to do that which is needful to give meaning to the resolutions he so chaired for ECOWAS to pass, to allow and facilitate the free movement of goods and services between us, our neighbors, and the rest of the world. Our
of the Mental Health Authority, Professor Kwesi Osei, has refuted claims that the Accra Psychiatric Hospital has been sold. He, however, said bidding for the redevelopment of the hospital under Agenda 111 has begun, and hopefully construction works on the two-bed facility will begin in June this year. He spoke to GBC News early on. Moving on, the construction of the 164-bed La General Hospital is expected to be complete within 30 months. When GBC News visited the site on Tuesday, the architect, Mr. Kwame Amponsa-Safo, explained that delays for the commencement of the project was due to some administrative constraints. Meanwhile, the contractors, Polychangda, have begun removing the topsoil of the 4-acre land prior to foundational works. A report by Sarah.
Since the president cut the sort for the reconstruction of the La General Hospital, various assessments were conducted to ensure that the land was fit for purpose.
If you look at this, you can see some contour lines on that. So that determines all the spot heights. The necessary hydrological studies have also been done to see the water levels and all that. And then the environmental and social impact assessment has also been done.
Mr. Kwame Amponsah for the architect attributed the delays in the commencement of the project to some administrative constraints.
With all 10 key projects, EPC 10 key projects, they are insured by the country where you are borrowing the money from. Okay, so what then happened was when the COVID broke out, there was talk of Africa getting some debt relief, and the Chinese government really felt uncomfortable with that kind of position. So on the basis of that, the projects that we had with China, they had to do some background studies and really confirm that whatever arrangements they had with the Ghana government would yield the desired results. And that took them about a year and a half to complete. If I recall, the clearance was given to the ministry on 20th October 2021. That was when we had the go-ahead that the project could be insured by the Chinese firm for work to start. And as you know, we need to go through a process called value for money. So the value for money could only start after that go-ahead had been given. So that's how come we had that hitch.
The 57 million euro La General Hospital is designed to include an oxygen generating plant, an accident and emergency unit, an OPD and consulting rooms, wards, a 26-unit single and two-bedroom accommodation, a crèche, a mortuary, others. After 30 months, when the hospital is expected to be completed, the people of La and its environs would no longer commute long distances to seek health care. Sarah for GBC News, La, Accra.
Away from that to water and sanitation, a policy dialogue has been organized in Accra to deliberate policy issues on strategic management of groundwater in Ghana. The dialogue was to raise an awareness on this year's World Water Day theme, which is groundwater, making the invisible visible. The dialogue was organized by the Water Resources Commission.
Globally, groundwater accounts for 30% of the world's freshwater resources and has a high microbiological quality and virtually requires no treatment in many cases. It is estimated that groundwater contributes about 62% of the total water of Ghana, serving mainly the unreached populations in both urban and rural areas. Additionally, 41% of water users permitted by the Water Resource Commission in 2020 used groundwater as the only source of water. The quality of groundwater resources in Ghana is generally good, except for some cases of localized pollution and areas with high level of iron, fluoride and other minerals. As part of the World Water Day celebration, the Water Resources Commission organized the dialogue to raise an awareness about the sustainability of groundwater.
Groundwater has always been critically important, but not fully recognized. We must protect groundwater from pollution and use it sustainably, balancing the needs of people and the environment. The environment also depends a lot on groundwater.
The head of planning at the Water Resources Commission, Dr. Bob Alpha, spoke to GBC News about the need to stop illegal small-scale mining, to stop polluting our underground water.
The biggest challenge we have, it is the small-scale mining, not all of them, but the illegal ones. And they have actually polluted our water bodies. I think everybody knows that when it comes to surface water, but also for groundwater, because they use chemicals like mercury, which goes into the groundwater, that has serious health implications, to our people.
The Water Resources Commission indicated that the indiscriminate drilling of borehole is dangerous and therefore directed the individuals who wish to have a borehole in their homes or community contact the Commission.
Let's look at climate change now. An effort to discover the country's lost forest cover to fight climate change and the threat from the indiscriminate sand winning in some parts of the Ashanti region. At Kona in the Setri South District, farmlands, especially cocoa farms and economic trees, are being destroyed in place of the sand. Monitoring the happenings, GBC News' Clara Mlano gathered that people are being silenced with death threats when the negative impact of their action is raised.
Relevant as it is to development due to population growth and the high demand for housing, the adverse effects of sand mining on the ecosystem is dire. This vast area was once a rice farm, cultivating local rice for the Ghanaian market. Overnight, the farmland turned to this, degraded due to sand winning. Agriculture is one of the activities of the people in the Setri South District of the Ashanti region. Of that, cocoa is the major agricultural activity, being one of the country's major foreign exchange earners. For decades, this 10-acre tract of land has been Papa Kojo Bwedi's main source of livelihood, cultivating cocoa after inheriting the land from his mother. He tells me he has benefited enormously from this farm, enough to put his children through school and fend for the family. However, he is in doubt if he would also bequeath this farm to his children. The sand mining invasion has affected his farm, destroying a quarter of the farm. In return, he was offered a paltry 400 Ghana cedis from the contractors.
2
weeks ago, I met a group here winning sand. They were familiar faces. I spoke to them. 3 days later, when I came here, I realized the cocoa plantation had become like a desert.
On the other hand, there is the allegation of traditional authorities being in league with this illegality.
We met them winning sand. They said the chief was aware of their activities. We had an acreage of cocoa here, but they have destroyed them all and mined the sand. The river belongs to the Stew. In 1983, we used to fetch water here. This river never dries. It is now a pale shadow of what it used to be.
The concern of the people is the abandoned pits scattered around the farmlands and forests due to the failure of the sand miners to cover or recover the land after the activity.
After mining, the land ought to be reclaimed, but these people just mine the sand and leave.
In other areas of the community, the sources of water, rivers and streams have been blocked or cut off from their sources. Established in the 2000s by the Kufuor administration to raise fish fingerlings for the northern sector, the interruption of natural water supply to the center is affecting. The center was purposely situated close to the Adonsio River to provide constant water to the ponds. But that is no more, with the center relying more on boreholes for production.
As you can see, we always need water to do our work, and if there is not enough water, it's going to make our work unprofitable. So we've been struggling to get water because we normally take water from the ponds. Yeah, that's the groundwater recharge. So we think it's from the ponds. But then ever since we've been drying out, the water has been drying out, we've been using borehole. And that one to use electricity. So it's costly.
Despite being an employment and income generating venture, one cannot ignore the pollution, health and environmental hazards associated with sand mining. Also, fighting climate change is a collective responsibility. But if the powers that be are able to crack the whip to enforce the very measures put in place to save the planet, all efforts would be in futility. For GBC News, Clara Mlano reporting.
On the international front, Israel has imposed restrictions on Ethiopian pilgrims traveling to the country for the upcoming Easter holiday. The Israeli authorities said that because of the war in the north of Ethiopia, they were worried that many of the visitors would not return home. Tourist agencies have confirmed that Israel's Population and Immigration Authority has issued a letter to say that Ethiopia Christian pilgrims should apply for permits individually. The move has been met with criticism from Israeli tour operators. The head of the Israeli Incoming Tour Operators Association says it was severely discriminatory as it only applied to Ethiopians, but Israeli authorities defended their decision, saying many tourist groups from Ethiopia have stayed in the country illegally in the past few years, something they fear could be exacerbated by the ongoing civil war. The 16-month-old conflict is continuing to impact millions across the country's north. So the Russia-Ukraine war, and Russian troops are holding 400 people, including doctors and patients, like hostages inside a hospital in Mariupol. Earlier, about 2,000 cars carrying civilians managed to leave the city, which has been devastated by intense Russian bombardment. Meanwhile, Kiev Mayor Vitaly Klitschko has announced a 35-hour curfew in the capital, warning of a difficult and dangerous moment. Russian airstrikes hit a metro station and buildings overnight, killing 4 people. In Russia, a journalist, Marina Ovzanikova, has been fined after interrupting Russian state TV with a sign reading "No War." She was charged with an administrative offense under Russia's protest laws. It was because of the video she released calling for others to demonstrate against what the Kremlin calls a special military operation in Ukraine. The Kremlin has also responded to new U.S. sanctions on several of its defense officials by barring 13 Americans from entering Russia, including President Joe Biden. The Czech, Polish, and Slovenian PMs are set to meet Ukraine's President Zelensky in Kiev. And that's it for the breakfast. At 6 a.m. we take the weather reports now, after which the breakfast show continues. I am Maltiti Saida Sadiq.
And they call me UJ. When you need a shoulder to cry, run on my pumpy, so we try our suicide. Let bygones be bygones.
don't go next level. Excessive drinking can be detrimental to health. Not recommended for persons under 18 years, lactating mothers, pregnant women, and people sensitive to caffeine. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Oh, today he has been extra sweet, and the way he looks at me.
I have done everything by the book. It's on. Hey, but I have to get some condoms, Charlie.
Using a condom will protect you and your partner from HIV, STIs, and unplanned pregnancy. Condoms are an effective way for protection against HIV infection. Don't take risks. Use a condom every time. Always come prepared.
This advert is brought to you by the Ghana AIDS Commission and Ghana Health Service.
Chalchalba nenka karba, buntina wana nenla, malaria 360, ategelaka, yeluza na chari malaria. Ayelminga laka, a COVID-19 nawa, kate inga watole finza, ama intela tierong, kate buno ka COVID-19 latita be malaria la. Ka ma ven kati dieretin yaga yaga bon funa bora la kafoga asibiti kabati iri fozen a pierika at Ghana palong che kabananya malaria balibiri afuzin pu tin abana sagide ka kuro la palong ila kabanande akofo ta die for mengantin ayel turi ngaza abang na malibin kati tura COVID-19 apuo tura za chiritete COVID-19 balonga na sawa che malaria na nankoro la noba katsenong na iri malaria bare ayila mang aninfunzie
Coming live from the capital, this is the Breakfast Show.
And they call me UJ. When you need a shoulder to cry, run on my pumpy, so we try to suicide. Let bygone be bygone. I didn't see what I'm gonna do. We go straight to start. I'm gonna take you to next level. Oh, baby, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The energy next level. But baby, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll take you to next level. Oh, baby, oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't go next level. Excessive drinking can be detrimental to health. Not recommended for persons under 18 years, lactating mothers, pregnant women, and people sensitive to caffeine. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Oh, today he has been extra sweet, and the way he looks at me.
I have done everything by the book. It's on. Hey, but I have to get some condoms, Charlie.
Using a condom will protect you and your partner from HIV, STIs, and unplanned pregnancy. Condoms are
lanes on our roads. Wilson Komla says in the UK Parliament, more MPs use public transport and bicycle more than cars. Well, what do our parliamentarians do here? They park and they keep the engine on, running. Won't even go there. Edwina Kwashi, I wish I knew how to ride a bicycle. It would have been the best option. You guys don't know how to ride bicycles? Please let me know. The time is coming. James Achu Nagbala, as for me, I got my bicycle ready. After riding it, I'll use the money for food to gain the energy back with strength. Forget daily transport. Waste of money and time. This is traffic. And then finally from Facebook, what if government made it more expensive to park your cars in the city and then rapid transport services be made cheaper and more effective by the government? It could help against the traffic and the high cost of fuel. And Mote Emmanuel said, I even bought the bicycle just yesterday. I think we should keep an eye on the bicycle importers, because I am pretty sure that things will be happening there. On Twitter, same question. What would you do? Would you join public transport? Would you bike to work? Barak Hassan at Barak G says, why not, King Kaf? Just that our roads are not friendly for bicycles. Else, cool idea. Kwesi Ampia, tweeting at Kwesi Ampia, says, our roads are not bicycle friendly. You can seriously get into trouble if you take bicycle as your main mode of transport. At citizen_Medin, the angel of Verdun, says, I did this few years ago. The company charged premium rate and provided air-conditioned minibuses. This was, he took public transport. It was good. One day they didn't show up, they just stopped. Notification. Later, I found out they got a big gig. Will I do that again? No. All right. Adam Tonya says, at the right time, you will definitely choose one. At Kweku Bills GH, we'll get Vanishing Spirit instead. Then at your destination, consult us for that. We do that well where we come from. We'll make you vanish. David Sandoz says, I think I'll go for a bicycle. The fuel price has run amok. And finally, Clean Air One Atmosphere tweeting at Clean Air on EA. Unfortunately, our roads do not meet the standards for cycling. We may consider cycling not because of fuel price hikes, but it will help to protect the environment, everything around us, including the next human. Please, may we have a conversation soon on air pollution and health? That's a nice way of promoting what you do. I like it. I like it. We'll talk about it. We have your Twitter. If they give Ayalolo its own lane and AC's work, what you want AC inside Ayalolo? This at Uchiha_ITAC. Why do you want the AC inside Ayalolo? Just open the air, let the air come in, through, and then we breathe nice God's air. Fred says he's doing it already. He's already on bicycle. Cool Jam says, I already have a motorbike. I saw it coming. You are a prophet, Cool Jam. Gustav Mensa, I've been parking my car to join public transport for a year plus now. Buying a bike is something I've considered, but getting a motorcycle would be awesome because it will get me to my destination faster. Nana Eninful says, I have parked my car since last week. And I've realized that on the roads, we have fewer people on the roads, fewer taxis, fewer trotros. Wish I could continue my electrical genset repairs work remotely from home online. Some of us have no choice but to still commute any way possible, else we go home. We know what will make you hung, especially at breakfast, which is the main meal of the day. Okay, one more, then we'll go have a conversation. You mean like ride a bicycle on this motorway to Accra? Yeah, I'm imagining those who live in Tema. How early will you have to get up on time? So keep them coming in on 055-556-1034. Messages coming in also on WhatsApp. And our conversation is happening on ear infections. Is happening right now. Please, I still need my title. Give me my title, okay? Every chief or king deserves a title. Give me one. 055-556-1034. We're going for our conversation on health check coming up right after this message. And we'll dive straight into it. Don't go anywhere.
The show was a jar or bar anyone conquer dim.
The groom is sick.
What?
Malaria.
Malaria. Lufat. Lufat.
Injija wohoma malaria enka wonto dem. Lufat eye malaria drop ekope.
And now you may kiss the bride.
Entrance Pharmaceuticals and Research Center. And aye Lufat. Lufat e to malaria sententem. FDA akesa ejedi.
To have you here. This is GTV Breakfast Heritage Month on GTV. WhatsApp number on 055-556-1034. We're looking at ear infections. What are the symptoms? What are the types? What are the causes? How can you deal with that unpleasant feeling? Could be a ringing pain. It's common in children and all people of various ages. How best can we care for our ears? My guest is Dr. Kenneth Baidu, who is an otolaryngologist, a head and neck surgeon. working at Collywood Teaching Hospital. Happy Heritage Month to you, Dr. Beidou. Good to have you.
Same to you.
Fantastic.
And thank you for having me.
Awesome. So let's go straight into business. Let's first talk about the ear itself and its role and what it serves to do for us as human beings.
Okay, so the ear is one of the 5 senses we have, and its function basically to perceive sound, and then apart from perceiving sound, it's responsible for our balance in space and time. So the ear, I think I brought some images, has 3 parts.
Okay.
We have the outer ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear. And the inner ear basically has to do with the sound, perceiving sound, and then the balance of our person in space. Okay. So the outer ear and the middle ear are basically channels to achieve this aim.
Okay, so that's what we're looking at on the screen right now.
Right. Yes. So what you are looking at is the ear. So the first part from the auricle or the pinna to the slanting membrane is the outer ear.
In terms of colors, which is the outer ear?
Oh, come on. I'm not a good color man.
So the one which looks like pink, right?
Yeah, the
one we can see.
Yeah, the one we can see. Yes. All the way to that slanting membrane is the outer ear. And then all those, the A-like shape, or they are the middle ear.
Okay.
And then the coil like the snail and all those other coils there are the inner ear.
Right.
Right.
And what do they do?
Right, so basically it's a channel. So because of the shape, it's able to concentrate sound onto the drum. So that slanting membrane is the drum. And now once you concentrate the sound to the drum, it starts to vibrate, and then those A-like shape structure there is the tiny bones in the ear, and they transmit the sound, amplifying it for the inner ear to now get an amplified sound, and then the coil takes it to transmit to the brain for onward hearing.
Awesome. Which part of the ear is responsible for balance, the balance that we have?
So if you go back to the picture, you see just on top of the coil, you see, so on top of the coil, you see all these circles.
Yes.
3 of them. So they are all in X, Y, Z plane. So they're 3-dimensional. So you're able to orientate in the.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And so what causes these infections that we're talking about today?
Well, basically, an infection is bacterial invasion in a place. Actually, bacterial or viral invasion in a place, microorganism invasion in a space. So if we have any microorganisms invading our external ear, then we get the outer ear infection. So all that we should to be the outer ear, bacteria can get there, and then they cause all those swellings, pain. I think the next picture should give us a better view of what we are talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's an artist's impression of what is likely to happen. So when there's an infection, you see the swollen canal, and then a discharge. And obviously with any inflammatory process, any swelling and the like, you get pain, redness, a discharge, and then edema or bogginess of that place.
That brown substance in our ears that comes out when you put a cotton bud in your ear, and what's that brown and what does it do?
Okay, so first and foremost, you're not supposed to put a cotton bud in your ear.
Why did they make the things for us then?
They made it for other reasons, and we have adapted it for alternate reasons.
Okay.
And that's, I think, more lucrative. So people sell it for that.
Okay.
Right, so it's wax or cerumen. It is produced by cells in the ear canal, and basically it's a lubricant for the ear. It contains antimicrobial, so it's more like a local guards to prevent infection into the ear. And then, what else? Catches all those dust and stuff that can get into the ear.
So it's a barrier, protective barrier.
More or less, and it lubricates the ear too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so taking it out is not a good idea?
It's not a good idea because by design, God in His wisdom. So there's a system in the ear that brings everything out. Obviously, because we are different people, some have thick ones, some have lighter ones. if you work in a dusty environment, obviously a lot of dust can go into your ear, and that will also be clogged in there. So all those things create the differences in how some canals are narrower, some are wider. So these things determine how often somebody's ear is cleared and how somebody's ears get clogged up.
And how about this water in the ear thing that happens when you go swimming, and then, so what's going on there?
Well, once even if you take a shower, you swim, water definitely enters the canal. But it's a cul-de-sac, so it's a blind ending. So it just goes in and comes out. Yeah, so you feel water in the ear, it comes out. Yeah, so that's not much of
no putting anything inside to try and take it out.
It will come out.
It will come out on its own. Okay, so how common are ear infections?
They are very common in everyday practice. Most of the reasons why people come to see us is a ear infection. Though there are quite a number who don't come to us, they go to the polyclinic. So what we see at our end is just a little bit of the numbers. Yeah, if we look at the incidence of or the frequency people visit even the primary facilities, a lot of them are ear related, and it has to do mainly with pain in the ear.
Okay,
and most of which are from the infection.
I just saw a picture we just came, and I wanted you to describe it. After this picture, there was a picture that came up. What's going on here?
Right. So this is fungal infection of the ear. So all those, when you get mold on your, sorry to use kinky, but we know there's mold on kinky. There's a similar picture in the ear. And usually this is in people who abuse ear drops. We have microorganisms in our ear, which we call the natural flora. On our skin, in your mouth, you have your own natural bugs. The ear has its own marks, natural bugs, and a balance of it keeps the fungus away. So if you buy ear drops and you put it in your ear, you kill your natural bugs, allowing these to flourish, and then they grow in the ear. So the left side is more proliferation than the right side. Yeah, and basically they cause a lot of itch. If the ear is very itchy and then painful, the pain is not that much as the itch. That's a very itchy ear.
And how is this dealt with?
We wash out the ear, clear what is there, and then sometimes we give benign or simple acid, we call boric acid and spirit ear drops, just to ear. It will clear these things and then allow the ear to recover more or less. Once the bugs in the ear recover, this thing goes away.
What's the effect of loud noise from wearing earplugs, listening to music at loud levels, going to church and sitting so close to the loudspeaker, screaming pastors, men and women of God, making a whole just noise, traffic? What's the effect on the ear with all this?
I think on the 3rd of March we celebrated World Hearing Day, and basically the import was to tell everybody our ears matter, and the noise we are having now is basically causing a lot of young people to have hearing impairment. And I have seen 2 persons who happen to have lost their hearing because they sat at the wrong place in the function. And they just happened to be sitting there because they had to sit there. And over time, the person started complaining, couldn't hear in that ear. We tested and the person was not hearing.
Wow.
Yes, and all because of the persistent noise. And traffic, on all our phones, we have apps that can tell you the sound level. You see, and it's good to have it. You'll notice how much noise. And sometimes in traffic, you can hit 80 decibels. And you can't, it's illegal to be in 80 decibels more than 8 hours. So assuming you spend an hour in traffic and you are hitting 80 decibels, so already you've got 1/8 of your
allotment
for the day. And if you spend 2 hours in that traffic, you can just imagine every day, 5 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. It's
getting more and more younger people who are losing their hearing.
Well, the data seems to say we are not recording that much, but those who record, they are coming in early. Hitherto, your parents, 60, 70, 80, will be now complaining of hearing impairment. But now, 40, 50, they are having hearing impairment. There are those who are work-related. That's a different thing. But all those Tom, Dicks, and Harrys are also coming in. So that's the problem.
How would, if you suspect that you have an ear infection, what should you really be doing, really? Or what are the signs?
Well, the signs, like any infection and inflammatory process, is pain and swelling and then a discharge. And the best thing is to see somebody who can handle it for you, and then they will take care of that. Most of the time, we'll give ear drops, and in a lot of instances, actually, the infection comes from us sticking things into the ear. So you get a pen top, you put it there, and then you scratch the skin.
The thing feels so nice, though.
I know somebody who was writing letters to parents to just send him the feather because he was outside and he didn't get feathers. But then this is because they don't post letters. I don't know how he's going to get it.
He wanted feathers to be tickling his ear. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so yes, it's a nice feeling, but then you have to weigh
against the risk.
Don't have to do it. Yeah.
Let's see this. What's on the screen right now? What's happening to the person's ear?
Right. So this is the middle ear infection. Yes. And usually, like you started in your discussion, you said it's more in children, and it usually follows a upper respiratory tract infection. So when you catch a cold, and you try to hold back the sneeze, what you do is you just push the infection into the ear because the ear is connected to the back of the nose. Yeah, so you do that, and then the picture on the right shows an angry ear. So like it's swollen inside, and this is one of the most painful things that can happen to anybody, as if your head is exploding. Yeah, and that's all pus collected behind the drum.
Whoa!
So it can, in children, for example, they start having a high fever, crying uncontrollably. They'll be tugging at the ear, and then before you realize, there's a discharge from the ear. Once it's burst, then they get a relief. But if we see it before then, there are medications we can give, basically antibiotics, that will help resolve it.
So the sneezing, we should have it.
Yeah. So and COVID times.
But in these COVID times,
yeah,
how
so
do we
have to
resolve
use,
that?
Tissue, or we advise you to use your, at least sneeze into your elbow. Yes, but that is not the best. But in the absence of any other option, it's the best option. Yeah. Yes, but then most of the time, carry something, a tissue preferably, then you sneeze into it.
Can you prevent your eardrums from suppressing a sneeze?
I don't know, but it's possible. Yeah. Because it's just a matter of pressure. Yes, okay. if you exert enough pressure,
you can burst it.
You can burst it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can a burst eardrum be repaired?
Yeah,
it can.
Actually, it can heal itself. Depending on the circumstances. Okay. But then, if that fails, it can be repaired.
Dr. Kenneth Bedo is my guest. He's a head and neck surgeon, an otolaryngologist. That's your word for today. And Thelma is here with your word. Rich culture. Rich culture made it
possible for all our looks today. The whole of this month is Heritage Month on GTV. Good morning, Doc. So here are the questions. And Godwin is asking, please, since I'm not to put anything into my ear, what should I do if it's seriously itching me? I can so relate to this. I'm not supposed to put anything there. So if I feel itch, what should I do?
The answer we have today is try and put your elbow into your ear. If it works, then you've got something in your ear. But that's on the lighter side. But then, seriously, you just have to rub the drum. We call it the tragus. You just rub this.
That little.
Yeah.
Okay. This guy. What do you call it?
Tragus.
Tragus.
Yeah. You just rub it.
Rub your tragus.
It soothes it a bit. It's not like putting something in the ear, but it takes away the itch.
Okay.
So rub the tragus, okay? People, rub your tragus.
Everyone in the studio is
we're rubbing our tragus. Even the sound man. Yeah.
Sometimes the fluid in the ear prevents us from hearing. How do we deal with that when your ear is blocked?
It's the wax we are talking about. Okay. Then you need to come and then we take it out. Okay.
You need to remove the wax from your ears.
But what helps sometimes, you can even apply olive oil drops at the onset. If it's not that thick, it can gradually, more like make it fluid enough to flow out by itself.
Okay. Olive oil is not just for anointing, okay? You can do your ears.
You can put in your ears as well. Questions from Aaron. Are ear infections hereditary?
Not really.
Okay. No. And apart from visiting the physician for treatment, do we have any recommended diet pattern that can fight ear infections?
I don't know of a diet that fights ear infection, but what can help is avoiding destroying the microflora in the ear with using like ear drops and all those things. Yeah, sticking things into your ear.
He's also asking, do the traditional method of treatment, are they advisable, where some try to put in concoctions, herbs and oil into the ear?
We see that a lot, and they come with problems, creating problems for us. So I wouldn't advise anybody to do that, because especially they give people things to snuff and stuff.
What are people putting in their ears? What's the craziest thing you've heard about?
Do I even remember? Tinkalo, you know Tinkalo, some dark, the rub powdery stuff they put around the ear.
Wow.
Some put it inside the ear. I've seen garlic being squeezed.
Garlic again?
Yeah.
Dealing with the witches. Garlic again in people's ears. Anyway.
This I can actually relate to. It says, please, can you use feathers in your ear? Don't tell me no. The feeling is awesome.
He said somebody was writing letters for them to send him feathers so that he could be tickling his ears.
So is that advisable? And I know sometimes people put a liniment or some rub substance on the feathers and then just use it to
tickle themselves. Basically it's just for the tickling. And what speaks against the feathers is people put say like we say the fowl has been in a lot of places, so you don't know what we are putting into your ear.
Exactly, infection, huh?
Yeah, some say they sterilize it and stuff, but it's just like just keep everything out of your ear. The feathers seem to be benign compared to the earbud because it's like it's flexible and it's not so it seems benign, but the bottom line is we don't want you to put anything in your ear, because even when we are putting things in your ear, we are looking directly, and even then people injure the ear.
Okay.
So if you are doing it blindly, you can just imagine what could be the consequences. Yeah.
So short answer, don't put anything in your ears.
Yes.
Even feathers, even though it feels awesome. I've done it in the past. Don't do it.
Just rub it. Is it the tragus? Rub the tragus, guys. Rub it like that. That's it. A little hill there. Rub it.
Yes. I'm so sad because that feeling is so great.
One more and we're done.
Good morning. Good education there. I feel good when removing the dirty stuff in my ears. And Doc is saying it's bad. I will try and avoid it. That's what we want you to do. Alrighty. One more. And then, that's a long one. Because we're out of time, let me just scroll to the top. Good morning, Kaf. My son's friend was playing with other kids and they mistakenly put waist beads inside his eardrums. And up to date, we couldn't remove them. We sent the child to have a hospital, yet they could not remove it. They only gave us ointment. What should we do?
Hafasini is far away, but they have to either come to Takrade or Cape Coast. Yeah, it has to be removed.
Okay.
Well, somebody has to look into the ear. The truth is, some of the beads, if it's the round ones and it's not, nobody has tried to take it out so that it's impacted in the deep end of the drum. Most of the time it will fall out.
Yeah. What's the strangest thing you've seen in somebody's ear?
Well, somebody who walks in, actually the sister had a problem and comes in and said, let me also just look into my ear, because we looked into my sister's ear and she had a earring in the ear and she didn't know her hearing was in the ear.
Well, she wanted more hearing from her earring or what?
I don't know.
Wow.
Guys, keep stuff out of your ears, okay, please. Please. Come on.
You're welcome. messages. We'll try and send them to the doctor so that he will find some answers for you. Back to you, Cap.
Thank you so much, Thelma. Dr. Bedu, what's the key takeaway you want people to take away from this conversation about ear infections?
Well, I think it's obvious. Nothing in the ear.
Nothing in the ear. It's as simple as that. And waist beads. Keep your waist beads away from your children, please. Okay, please. Thank you so much, Dr. Kenneth Bedu. He's an otolaryngologist. I love saying this word. A head and neck surgeon with Kolebu Teaching Hospital. And you can watch this segment again at 11:30 tonight on GTV Breakfast. Still to come, a conversation with Mr. Johnson Asiru Nketia, General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress. He has matters arising with Thelma. We've got sports news at 7, but ahead of that, Val is taking us on a rush hour tip. You stay with us.
Effective way for protection against HIV infection. Don't take risks. Use a condom every time. Always come prepared.
This advert is brought to you by the Ghana AIDS Commission and Ghana Health Service.
The groom is sick.
What?
Malaria.
Malaria.
And we're going via technology to the Shiashi area in Manuel Island. Somewhere last year, we reported there was a big bus drain and there was water, and then yes, we are going back to that area, but we are not looking at that drain. We're looking at what traffic looks like. Our guy Jay is already on standby. Jay, good morning. What can you report? What's happening? Tell us. Speak.
Thank you so much, Val. Good morning, and thank you for telling us about the broken drain the last time. You know, it's been a while since we came here. We were here last year, and that's what happened. Fortunately, this morning, nothing of the sort is happening. We're here to report on the traffic situation. Allow me to be your Google map. So if you're a commuter using this side this morning, this is what the traffic situation looks like. So if you turn your direction, if you look in the direction for the Emmanuel Eye Clinic, for those who are coming from the Lagos Avenue, who are coming from Baoleshu, who are coming from East Legon, this is the situation you'll be facing when you arrive over here. You can tell how the traffic is, and I'm sure for those who are coming from East Legon and the Lagos Avenue, you can tell that they haven't arrived here, but this is what you'll be facing when you get to this side. For those who are coming from Opoglo and Legon area, some people want to dodge, and they come and get out here at this avenue right here, the Lagos lane over here. And I don't know, sometimes the main road is your best bet. So trying to divert yourself and using another side just to get to this place, you may face more traffic when you want to enter the main road. So for now, I suggest you use the main road instead of using any diversions, so that you don't stay too much in the traffic. So for those coming from Baoleshu, East Legon, the Emmanuel Eye Clinic area, this is what the situation looks like for you. And so if we turn our attention for those who are coming from Shiashi, the bus stop and all, Spanner Junction, for instance, and motor, we can tell in that lane it's free for now. But if you look on the other side, heading into the main business district, for instance, they are going towards 37, they are going towards Accra Mall, they are going towards Accra Circle. They can be going towards the pass as well. So you can tell the traffic is thick. It's a sea of red, the tail lights, a lot of people heading to work. I thought we were all complaining about the fuel prices. You would think commuters will slow down and start taking commercial vehicles. But for now, it seems everybody wants their convenience and they want to drive their own vehicles to work. And this is what they have to face. So for those who are coming and heading into the main business district, this is what your traffic situation looks like. And finally, for those who are coming from Legon, who are coming from Medina, who are coming from Oponglo and all, this is what the situation looks like for you. And I want to say they are used to the situation at all, but I pray it's like when you're in this, you just have patience and you just stay in it and you do your best to get to your destination without creating any. In terms of the traffic situation, yeah. So this is what the situation looks like at the moment. Okay, so traffic is moving. For those who are coming from the Emmanuel Eye Clinic, there's a policeman here directing the affairs. And I'll try and see if I can speak to some of the commuters so they can tell us what their feeling is like being in traffic such as this. Hi. Good morning. Would you like to speak to us about being in traffic? Oh, yeah, just a simple question. Yeah. Hi, good morning. Welcome to GTV Breakfast.
Good morning.
Yeah, so, sir, please, your name?
My name is Joseph.
Joseph. So, depending on the traffic situation, I thought we all complain about the fuel prices. So, why do you think we are facing a situation such as this?
As in the traffic?
Yeah.
Well, you have to do what you have to do. You know, we have to go to work. So, at least, even the fuel being high, we still have to go to work.
Yeah, but I thought COVID has shown us that we can work remotely from home and all that. So, this situation, we can care, but maybe board public transport and all that.
Well, I agree. Maybe we have to go back to the table and see what we can do. But at the moment, it's okay.
At the moment, it's okay.
Yes.
All right. So all the best at your work. Thank you so much. So that was one commuter telling us, I'm trying to find reasons why people would like to stay in traffic like this and go to work, even though they can work remotely and all. If there's one lesson COVID has taught us, we can work remotely. So maybe this traffic situation can be kept. And if you look at the situation right now, it's quite. I don't know how people have patience to stay in this, but this is what the situation looks like. So, in terms of traffic update here from Shashi Emmanuel Eye Clinic, this is what we have for you. Back to you, Val, in the studio.
PJ, Arenie said, "One penny for any man." Bakukra Enyera. Coming up next, breakfast sports.
Lufat.
Injija wohoma malaria enka won to them. Lufat, eye malaria drop pen.
And now you may kiss the bride.
Entrance Pharmaceuticals and Research Center. And aye Lufat. Lufat, a two malaria sententem. FDA.
At the Ghana versus Nigeria World Cup qualifiers, also ECG cuts part to the Accra Sports Stadium. Also, we're looking at women's football and how the Manchester United fans are bleeding. Let's start off. Reports say that FIFA and CAF inspection team, led by Mr. Ivan, have paid a second visit to the Cape Coast Stadium and had been impressed with the work done on the pitch so far. The team, who were accompanied by the officials of the NSA and the Ghana Football Association, took hours inspecting the pitch, but is yet to give approval on whether the pitch is now in good shape for the World Cup playoff on March 25. Still on the World Cup qualifiers, the Super Eagles of Nigeria are set to arrive in Ghana in a week's time ahead of the crucial first leg of the 2022 World Cup qualifier playoff against the Black Stars. Nigeria's head coach, Austin Egwavon, has named a 25-man squad.
From 1921 to 2021, the journey to our centenary has been a
3 days later.
It's only the third time that these two sides have met. Here's a gala.
Bizarre situation where the Electricity Company of Ghana (ECG) has cut power supply to the Accra Sports Stadium over 8,000 Ghana cedi. The ECG's National Task Force cut the power supply to the stadium yesterday due to an unpaid bill of 10 months, and the facilities management have reportedly failed to make a 50% payment of the total debts, leading to their disconnection. Let's look at women's football, and the Black Maidens of Ghana will take on the young Teranga Lionesses of Senegal in the second leg of the first round qualifiers for the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup at the Accra Sports Stadium on Sunday. The Maidens are heading into the match with a 1-0 advantage from the first leg in Senegal, a fortnight ago. Now Ghana are chasing a record 7th straight FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup appearance, having finished third at the 2012 edition in Azerbaijan. Manchester United, the Red Devils, to Atletico Madrid.
Live from the capital.
Well, good to have you here. It's always good to start the day with some good lumba. And still to come on today's show, there's a conversation that Thelma will be having with Mr. Johnson Asiedu Nketia, who is the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, looking at issues of the quorum judgment and the minorities' cry. That's something to look forward to in the next hour of the show. Ahead of that, Valerie sits down with the Minerals Commission, and we're looking at measures around transporting of explosives. Acting Chief Inspector of Mines will be our guest from the Minerals Commission. WhatsApp number is 05555561034, hashtag GTV Breakfast. We're still asking what you're doing to mitigate the high cost of fuel. Would you park your vehicle and take public transport? Would you get a bicycle, motorbike? What are you doing? Would you earn more money to counter? Let's know what's on your mind. Before I jump in, top of the day to you, Professor Bonzi Simpson. You enjoyed the conversation that I had with Dr. Bedu on ear infections. And Mr. Kakra Isamwa has responded. I was asking for a name. Name the chief. And he says, according to him, I am Awomefia of GTV Breakfast Show. GTV Breakfast Show, Awomefia. Yo, Akpanao. Keep the suggestions coming in 05555561034. My guests are King Kwesi Chidakwa, the MD of the Finest Productions. He's a media and brands and culture expert. Kwesi, good to have you here.
Good to see you.
And Oscar,
good to see you in your element.
Yes, and thank you very much. And Oscar Provençal is actor, director, Inspector Bediako. Most of you know him as, and he's doing great things on your screens. Oscar, good to see you here.
Good to see you.
All right.
I could see the two of you are in competition. Whose crown is bigger than?
I remember when we were in primary school.
Who's the bigger king?
We used to have these games where we go into the bathroom, we go and pee and we say, "My pee is bigger than yours."
Oh my God!
We used to do that in primary school. Guys. Yeah, but so we're not going to compare crowns.
You have sticks today. What do you call these? Yours is a what? A jaguar?
No, this is just a cane.
Oh, it's a cane. Yeah. A jaguar cane.
Mine is a horse.
Yours is a horse.
Yes.
Okay.
Listen, I'll give you a proverb to start the day. Ahimfuchinye, ebidibi, ebidi. Yes, another one too. Odishe ankua akwa jani. If the kings not fight, the servants will run away. So 2 proverbs for you to start the day. And now, the gods of Ashanti, spare me my pronunciation. I come from the seaside. Okay, these are your headlines. A daily graphic: printing textbooks locally is a patriotic gesture, says the printers. Schools cannot address challenges, says the president. Odor drain choked ahead of seasonal rains. Ghanaian Times, Abaka Vomawa case, council wants client discharged. Make use of RTI, right to information, says Oponkruma to the academia and the media. Fight coups with action. Akufo-Addo fires up African leaders. Open land borders now, Minority tells the government. That's a new publisher. And the Daily Analyst says, pass affirmative action bill into law. Law now now is going on today. And now it's time for us to discuss the issues. Let's jump into coups, because two papers have this. Coups can't address challenges, says the president, and fight coups with action. He's firing up the African leaders. Let's see what he's saying. So, President Akufo-Addo has been talking to his peers, and he says he's told the AU that more verbal rhetoric devoid of bold actions in the United Front are not enough to curb the emerging phenomenon of coup d'etats in the continent, and they need to find out creative ways of addressing the challenge with a sense of urgency. Statements condemning coups alone without corresponding action will, however, achieve little or nothing, as witnessed in recent times. Oscar, the conversation has gone all the way to the AU now with this coup talk. Are you in any way surprised?
No, not in the least. And, you know, the way, and rather unfortunately, by the AU, sometimes it makes them look like toothless bulldogs. And it's not limited to them. I think the UN also has that challenge as well sometimes. But well, it's the call. The president's call is in the right direction. Fortunately for us in Ghana, we don't have that situation on our hands, and we shouldn't. We should protect our democracy with all the might that we have. A lot of these countries that are currently having these issues with coups are mainly francophone-based countries. Maybe they're trying to shake the shackles off the French connection, and so they have their own internal issues regarding that. There was a time where the Anglophone countries had those issues, Ghana, Nigeria, you know, within that, you know, things at that time. So maybe this is a move against the francophone connection, and that's why we're seeing it. Whether it will trickle over to other countries within the sub-region or the rest of Africa, I don't know about that. I think it's specifically more to do with the francophone issues that they have, you know, over there. Okay. So, yeah, I think the president has made the right call, but the challenge is always going to be, if you allow coup makers to get away with what they're doing and give them extensions of 5 years, and you can't find the right mechanisms, you know, especially when they are taking over from democratically elected leaders, if the AU cannot find those mechanisms to put them in check, well, who knows?
Who knows? What I do know is that we do have the president's statements, part of it, what he said at the AU. And then I'll get Kwesi's views on the issue. So let's take a listen to the president.
As much as the drivers are largely domestic, the international dimension cannot be overlooked. Foreign involvement in fomenting unconstitutional changes, often in favor of repressive governments, foreign economic interests, and other would-be geopolitical benefits are contributory factors. Some foreign entities regard coups in Africa as a means of enhancing their regional ambitions. As such, they engage in all sorts of disinformation campaigns in a bid to disparage the authority of democratically elected governments and instigate opposition protests against incumbents.
The outcome of the agenda of the AU extraordinary.
So that was the president shining a light on possible disinformation activities from foreign powers and people who have an interest in destabilizing African countries. Kwesi, your take on the continuing conversation on coups?
You see, when I hear of coups, especially in Africa, the first thing I think of is a mercenary intervention against a democratically elected government. But when you find that the coups are not mercenary interventions, but instigated by the nationals, the citizens themselves, then you say, whilst the coups are wrong and must be condemned in no uncertain terms, there must be things that cause people to want to stage a coup. Because if you live in a house where you have a tyrant for a father, who spends all the money on his personal luxuries, and the children are ill, and the wife is suffering, eventually, one day soon, one of the children will rise against the father. So are the coups that we're talking about in Africa today mercenary interventions by foreigners, or are they instigated by the people? If they are instigated by the people, then yes, the coup is wrong, in the same way as I feel capital punishment is wrong. Some people think it's right. But also, are we dealing with the circumstances that will make people start talking about the possibility of a coup? Because the whole world praised the Arab Spring. Very few people condemned it. So was the Arab Spring a coup or not? If it was a coup, then why do we praise some coups and condemn others? The whole world, the Western world, that the one leader that we continually say is the most visionary leader we have ever had in Ghana, yeah, it's good that he left office. But those same people do not think of the fact that their forces had an intervention, a foreign intervention, that took the head of Libya out of power, and that took yet another African leader out of power. So I think where we are in our lives now, we are at a place where self-determination is necessary. Of course, we have to deal with the world. We have to exchange services with the world. We have to look at our comparative advantages and use them to secure our place as a respectable nation in the world. But we must also look at our governance and what the people we put into positions of authority do. Because for as long as governance is poor and people in authority act with impunity, whilst the coups may be wrong, there will still be a demand for it.
Bringing this home, so there's a current case that is going through the very tortuous legal system involving Oliver Barker-Vormawor, who hasn't yet gotten the opportunity to enjoy a bit of freedom as far as bail is concerned. And the Graphic Online is reporting that the court is telling the prosecutors to attach seriousness to the treason felony charge against this chap, because they went to court yesterday and the prosecution was nowhere to be found. The court cannot wait for anyone, and if the state is interested in pursuing the case, it ought to show all seriousness, because I will not take any unseriousness on the part of the state in connection with this case. This is a court presided over by Mrs. Eleanor Kakra Barnes Butchie. So that's what's happening.
State prosecutors did not turn up.
They didn't turn up yesterday.
I mean, the adjust suffer thing is beginning to become the norm in Ghana, right? State prosecutors did not turn up. The Attorney General has state prosecutors. Some young, some old, many very experienced. I cannot understand how people will shirk their responsibility like that. We have a brilliant Attorney General who has proven his brilliance through cases he has handled over the years. And I believe he has brilliant, deputies as well. I don't understand how the state, if it considers anything serious, will not turn up.
And listen to the response from the defense, because they saw this as an opening. And so the defense of Mr. Vormawor, counsel for Vormawor, Dr. Justice Sremsai, argued that the prosecution has still not formally charged him with the offense and has also not submitted any bill of indictment. And I quote, "We have realized that the prosecution has lost interest totally in pursuing the case, and we insist the facts in court charge of treason felony, and we pray accordingly. We pray the court to discharge the accused." So that's what counsel.
No bill of indictment?
Not yet, according to the counsel for Mr. Vormawor. And this is over a month. He touched down in Accra on the 11th of February, and today is the 16th of March. So we're talking.
And the man is still being denied his freedom.
Indeed.
On the basis of.
I saw arguments which claimed that there's a risk that he could leave the country through unapproved routes, and so
so he's a flight risk.
That's what they're saying.
And because he's a flight risk, he's being held, but we are not willing to charge him, or we are unable to charge him. It's either willing or able, or willing and able.
Well, I guess the best thing is to get the Attorney General into your studios, isn't it?
Yes,
and let him speak to the issues. Encouraged by what the judges said. I mean, I think justice is for all. You are innocent until proven guilty. There are processes. And so it may send a signal to many in this country that our justice system is working. We have challenges with it. Many perceptions are out there. But for a serious, case of this nature, which borders on treason, which on our books could mean that if you're found guilty, you could be summarily executed. It has a death sentence to it, even though that the penalty has a death sentence penalty has not been implemented.
Yeah. People just go to death
for about 2 decades now. But it just shows the seriousness of the case, and it's all about proving your case beyond reasonable doubt.
Indeed.
So the onus now is on the state to prove their case.
Yes, there will be another appearance in court, hopefully, and then they'll find out whether he gets the bail. But we'll be keeping our tabs on that. This is GTV Breakfast. You're watching the headlines with King Kwesi Chedakwa and Oscar Provençal, my guests. And you are our guests too. You can take part. Send us your messages 055-556-1034. What do you make of the coup conversation, the comments of the president? What's happening with Mr. Vomawa's case? Would like to hear from you. Now, gentlemen, I know you're all very patriotic citizens of this dear land of ours.
You think or you know?
I know. Daily Graphic, printing textbooks locally is a patriotic gesture, according to members of the Ghana Printers and Paper Converters Association, GPPCA. So they are saying this, waxing lyrical and very eloquently, because of the decision of the government to see the printing textbooks locally. So now we're going to have 100% of textbooks being printed in Ghana. And the president of the GPPCA, James Apia-Beku, says he's given the assurance of the association's readiness to deliver on time. So I'll give you some context. So last year, the government announced its commitment to 100% printing of textbooks in Ghana to help grow the printing industry. So there's some pre-qualification processes that they have to undergo. All local publishers directed to present their documents, which would include signed contracts with local printers. And any publisher without an agreement with the local partner would not be considered in the offer. So basically, it's a kind of an affirmative action for the printing industry. I am looking at this as something in the line of, okay, Ghana beyond aid. We're trying to rely more on ourselves. Step in the right direction. Maybe a bit late, but still a good step.
Always a good thing if you can do stuff yourself. What you don't know how to do, you have no choice but to let others do for you. But even as you let others do them for you, you must start having others train to replace them. That's why we have something called import substitution. First and foremost, if you say printing textbooks locally, which one are you talking about? Akiola is not a Ghanaian. So if Akiola has published his works and he has done his deal and you want to buy his books, you cannot tell him to come and print in Ghana unless you say you're not putting his book on your list of textbooks. Kotler is not Ghanaian either. So if Kotler's books are such that they are shipped here and you buy them in a bookstore, then maybe you might want to look at the possibility of replacing Kotler with the works of Nia de Clegg or we need to start looking at also replacing the textbooks of foreign authors with local authors. Because when I was studying for my master's, it's interesting. There was material I was looking for, and I couldn't find any local authors who had done anything there. So when we say printing of textbooks, I'm very interested in what are we doing also to ensure that the majority of our textbooks are written by locals. I mean, plagiarism is a big problem everywhere. Whether you go to Europe, the Americas, China, wherever you go, there's plagiarism. But when you have intelligent people who have studied, especially those who have been able to get their MPhils and PhDs, who are reading, extensively, they must be able to do their own research and replace every imported textbook by now. Because textbooks are necessities. They're necessities. You know, and I'm happy we're printing them, but we should go forward and start encouraging the authors.
So go local and domestication on a higher level, so to the author level. Oscar, how does this play out in the industry that you work, the push for more Ghanaian content? You can comment first of all on the picture, on the textbooks, and then just flip it to where you work.
Well, I mean, I think this has been a long time in coming. I mean, I think that it is absolutely in the right direction. We've been talking about made in Ghana, by Ghana. We know the benefits of it. I think the publishers are in a good place. I hope they can deliver, because there's always their challenge in the past has been issues regarding time. Now they have the challenges of raw materials and the impact that COVID has had, you know, on importation, and so whether they can stick to the timelines with all these factors involved, it's a brilliant move, and I think it should cut across all sectors. Government needs to, you call it affirmative action. Mm-hmm. Should it even be affirmative action? It should be the norm that we should be having, you know, our industries and doing our own productions instead of, you know, importing all the time. But like Kwesi said, yes, when there's a necessity, then you have to do so. But I think where we are now is that irrespective of, and you know, every time we talk about importing, it looks like the finished products are cheaper than the products made in Ghana. Yeah. But if that's affirmative action, then we should find a way to subsidize this, because we know the challenges and the differentials between, the pricing and everything.
Yeah, because pricing is going to be a big factor.
It's going to be a factor. You know, I mean, if you look at the cost of electricity, if you look at the cost of importation, and all these fuel prices going up, it's going to have a ripple effect. But affirmative action for me is not just simply handing over to, you know, the local production, but subsidizing them to a point where they can, you know, have some sort of parity, with the imported ones. And so don't leave them to the vagaries of the world today. Give them the incentives that will allow them to produce, you know, at a scale that will be a win-win situation. And that's the way we have to go. You talked about our industry. I mean, we have the same challenge. I mean, after all, we have all the elements. We trade as well. I mean, we do production, we export, we import. The cameras that are here have all been manufactured here. All the skill sets that are here. Fortunately, we're training. We have skilled technicians and we're training. But we need to move beyond all of that. And I would like to see a made in Ghana camera one of these days.
I'm sure Safo and Tanka can have a thing or so to say about that.
So we're gradually moving in that direction.
Yeah, and OTEC was doing that,
but it's too slow. And you find out that even with the universities, you find out that many of the universities outside in America and in Britain are responsible for the technological changes, you know, and the new innovations that we're seeing. Sadly, we're not hearing that really from our universities here. I believe that there may be some that are probably sitting on shelves, and we're not taking things seriously. But COVID should have sent a signal to all of us that we must inward. I mean, when COVID struck, what happened? We were getting our local fashion industry to produce face masks. Yes. I mean, that signal alone should have a ripple effect right across. I shouldn't be in this, piecemeal kind of thing. By now, there should be a clear policy in which we are moving in that direction. And so it's heartwarming, but I think that it should cut across completely.
Any thoughts you want to add to this, Kwesi?
I was thinking, because I had a long discussion with a dear friend. In fact, he's like a younger brother to me, who's passed away. James Edudadzi, he was the managing director of GPAC, the Printers at Graphic Corporation, because I print quite a bit of my clients' work there. And he was saying, Kwesi, that the challenge I have with trying to get discounts for people who are even ordering in bulk is the fact that nearly every input of mine is imported. You know, basic paper is imported. Ink is imported. Nearly everything. I've had a conversation with a guru in the printing industry as well, Backpress, maybe one of the best printing presses in the whole of Africa. Same thing. He says nearly everything is imported. So we are at the mercy of the people who actually produce the inputs we need. So I am sitting here and thinking that I'm praying that something that happened in the free zones many years ago will not happen with this. There has to be clear checks, because I'm not looking to see somebody win a contract by bidding just slightly lower by somebody who actually intends to print in Ghana and keep people employed, but give the contract to somebody who takes it and then shoots off to China or India to print it all. So there are no Ghanaians making any income off this deal. It's just only 4 people, plus maybe the person who shipped the deal off to him. And the one who would have given maybe 270 Ghanaians a job does not get the contract. So when we have initiatives like this, they sound great. And that's why I always talk about matching the actions with the rhetoric. We must ensure that once we have said it, we have clear points that we follow to ensure there's this success criteria. Because like it happened, somebody took a contract, built a factory in the free zones area, 1,000 sewing machines, took contracts to print uniforms for services in Ghana, but didn't use the machines to sew any. Shipped the things off to, I think, India or Pakistan, made them all there and brought them back. So the Ghanaian worker did not benefit. You know, and, on these things, so we can follow up and see that it was announced beautifully and it has been delivered efficiently and effectively.
055-556-1034. If you're in the printing industry, you make books, textbooks. What do you make of this? Are you excited? Are you working with trepidation? Are you worried? Are you joyous? Overjoyed? We'd love to hear from you. And the cool comments, we'd love to hear from you as well on that. Are you following the Vomawa case? We'd love to hear from you on that. What do you make of the judge's comment saying, guys, speed up. You can't just be wasting our time. If you're serious about this thing, come to court. At least. Well, talking to somebody who has come to work, she's right here on my right. She's called Thelma, and she has your messages in the palm of her hand. Thelma, go ahead.
So there's one that I thought that was really funny. I'll save that. Perhaps I should do that first. So good morning, Cav. So much glitter on your show today. Real gold, or a case of all that glitters is not gold. Makes poor Oscar look out of place, but more real.
Listen, if you're going to compliment somebody, just compliment the person. Don't give him a backhand comment. Don't say you're looking nice, but then ask, is it gold? Either you are complimenting me. Yeah, if you are complimenting, you're complimenting me. If you're not, don't compliment me. Okay? Yeah, so just leave it at that. Thank you. Good morning.
Oh, gosh. So, comments made by persons are their own views and not the views of GBC or any of its presenters. I'm just going to go straight to it. Cafe, good morning to you and your guests. Vomawa's case is, I'll show you where power lies. He's not the only one that has made such comments. This is not going anywhere. They should stop wasting taxpayers' money. That's what Victory is saying. More messages coming in. Aaron has a long list. Good morning to you. Coup d'etat, this wicked element of overthrow of political administration within the African continent. On the note of citizens, is bad, high level of inflation, only a particular section of the political figures enjoy certain privileges in the system, and other personal factors, reasons best known for coup plotters to explain or define. My point, the pen is mightier than the sword, which stands to reason that the sword is not the best to fight for your political freedom, but the pen in the form of petitions, articles, expressing yourself, and the voice of the people. Aaron Babako Kokomisa sent us that message. Don Babs says, good morning, I'm King Babs. So everybody is a king today. Today is the happiest day for me. He's saying that King Kwesi Che Dakwa, is it the grammar, vocabulary, tone of language, swag, gentleness, etc. I wish to meet him one day. Inspector Mediako, this movie is one of my favorite during the days. I don't miss this show. So this is a special one I read for our two gentlemen at the table. More messages coming in, including Bible quotations. Thank you for sending Matthew 24:2. Good morning, Kafui. I think they should pass the e-levy bill. That's according to one of the people who are watching us. This is a lot. Good morning, GTV Breakfast. There is no smoke without fire. Definitely, there should be some factors that will lead to coup d'etat, like high cost of living, fuel price increasing every week, water shortages, etc. Mr. President should do the needful that would put people's mind at rest and peace will prevail. From Ash Joe from Tema. So we don't support any idea to do anything unlawful on this platform. Update noted, it's most welcoming to see the faces of these two brilliant men on GTV. They both did speak the Queen's language some years back on GBC radio and television. From Alhaji Dauda. Alhaji Dauda has also been a host on GBC Dagbanli, I believe it was before. Thank you for saying that. You always look royal in your attire. Your Spice Girls are always looking as... So we are the Spice Girls. Okay, no problem. Be my lover. You can do. Good morning, Busumuru Opumpuni Hinipong. KKD will have my head for not pronouncing this. Opumpuni Hinipong Kafui. Oma Hene and Osaji for Oscar. I foresee hunger and loss of farm produce. Please let's start backyard farming. Each Ghanaian. Mena Hunter Franco Bab sent us that. From New Edubiase. Good morning, GTV. The show is so interesting. I'm always late to work. I think we have achieved our goal if you are late to work, because we want to make you late for work every morning. Or just take us along with you as you travel, watching the stream on Facebook or on YouTube. And you can find us on Twitter and Instagram as well. So don't be late for work. Take us with you. And when you get to work, share with your friends.
That's
also watch.
Thank you very much. Nicely, smoothly done. What's your name today?
Mina Kwansma.
Mina Kwansma. With us. Aye. Yep. Still to come, Mr. Johnson Asielu Nketia. He's the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress. And before that, an explosive conversation on how to transport these explosives safely with the Acting Chief Inspector of Mines of the Minerals Commission, Mr. John Amwenyi. Your messages on 055-556-1034. We are keeping an eye on a location close to us today, and to do that, I think I'll be... So we're looking at stolen grapes posing a risk to commuters from an area called Ebony, which was known for pies those days. So stick around, keep an eye pretty soon. Okay, pretty soon, which is like not now, but in a short while. Let's just jump into a conversation that it's not too far from the whole Circle Ebony area, because Odo Drain, I mean, I don't even know why this should be a national headline, but it is. So we are expecting rains in a couple of months, and so the Odo drain is choked. Who is not working? The Odo drain is choked. The picture is just incredible. You should grab a copy of today's daily graphic, page 20. I'm sure if you go online, graphic.com.gh, you see a picture. It's like fish that they've dried on the ground, but it's not fish, it's rubbish. Okay, the Odo drain, which begins at, they say Caprice. Is it Caprice or Caprice?
Caprice.
Caprice. But we say Caprice in Ghana. I'll say Caprice for people to know what we're talking about. Caprice Bridge, although it's Caprice. No. At Alajo, runs 10 kilometers to the edge of the Colin Lagoon, is choked. No news. The drain was constructed to carry water from the Odo River and rainwater from upland areas such as Ibri Mountains, but it's choked. A cocktail of activities, a really smelly cocktail if you ask me. Makeshift settlements, dumping of refuse into the drain, rubbish, all kinds of things. And that drain flows from all the way there under the the high street, straight into the sea. Straight into the sea. And it's just crazy. We're waiting for the rains to come and then we'll start complaining again. People are not doing their work, Oscar.
then they haven't been doing their work for a long time, because this has been going on year in, year out. We keep on coming back every time.
Why can't they start working now?
We've heard about the drains being desilted. We've had, you know, Zoom Lines companies out there desilting and a whole bunch of things happening. So will it end? A lot of it has to do with human behavior, you know, and the typical behavioral patterns of Ghanaians when they throw their rubbish into the drains.
It's not human behavior.
Well, I didn't say it's entirely all human behavior. That's only one aspect. I'm sure if I continue, you'll probably hear other aspects as well. But yes, when you say people are not doing their job, of course, the authorities who are responsible for this.
So that's the door right there.
You have engineers.
Wow.
What's happening to all of their brilliant ideas to resolve this problem? Is it just continually the widening and the deepening of the drain, or do we have catchment areas to catch innovative ways of catching all this waste?
It's just incompetence, if you ask me.
Are we going to have to build fences right along the drain to stop people from, you know, putting in, but the water is coming from the hinterland? You know, it's coming from highlands further up and pouring in. And so I hope that we can get the engineers. Once again, I always go for the solutions. Get the engineers in here. I'm not an expert on this. Get the engineers in here, and let's demand from them, what is the problem? This place has been there since Nkrumah's time. We keep on hearing of flooding year in, year out. Same issues, same discussions. I mean, what's wrong with us as a people? Why can't we solve this problem? Maybe it's a question of finance. But we should stop coming back here year in, year out, discussing this same problem and ensure that the problem is fixed once and for all. Kwesi wants to blame somebody.
Now
there are plenty blames to go around.
Now that we have learned to fly in the air like birds and to dive in the sea like fish, there is only one thing that remains.
Okay.
To learn to live like humans on earth. You see, we have permanent citizens and temporary administrations. To err is human, so certain citizens will go wrong, and certain citizens will actually intentionally go wrong. The essence of choosing administrations is to enforce those things that preserve humanity. The Odo is not choked because the government doesn't do its job. The Odo is choked because certain recalcitrant citizens do something evil. Because every time you throw a plastic bag away and it floats into a gutter, that is where it ends. Number one, government is going to have to ban black polythene bags. Yeah. You know, I go to buy food. I take my bowls when I go to buy food. I look at the number of people coffee in a rubber bag, the soup in a rubber bag, the green in a rubber bag, and I'm like, when did this start? My mom was a restaurateur for over 40 years. We never put food in rubber bags. But it's going to take somebody in an administration, I beg your pardon, it's going to take one wise human in an administration to put this out and say, this is not helping us, let's change. Why did France decide, no, you can't get a rubber bag for free in a supermarket? In fact, we don't even want rubber bags. They should be paper bags. They should be stuff that is biodegradable, because one human being thought and expressed their thoughts. And the citizens heard that thought and said, that's a brilliant thought. Let's do it. Why is it that in some country you get there and you know you cannot chew gum? You know the name of that country. Why? Because they realize in London the amount of money that the government spends to clear the streets of chewing gum. But London hasn't been able to do what Singapore does. So really, permanent citizens, temporary administrations. When you get the chance to serve in any administration, realize you've gotten the chance to write your name in history forever. Have an initiative, follow it through, and let it help Ghana for posterity. Because as it stands, I can say without a shred of doubt, leadership is not thinking. End of story.
End of story. Beginning of a new one. And I'll come back to you guys for a few comments on some other issues. But thank you for your thoughts. We want to go now to Ebony. It's in the Circle area, and there's some grates that are missing that are causing some wahala. And our man Jay Gabra is on the ground. Stolen grates posing a risk to commuters. Jay from Ebony, tell us what's going on. Who stole the grates, man?
Thank you so much, Boss Cuff. I hope you can see me. Here it's me waving at you. This is the moment people have chosen to pass in front of me. So like you rightly said, I'm at Ebony here at the Kwame Circle interchange, here to report about the destroyed gratings. I wish they were missing though. If it were missing, it means somebody has stolen them. But that is not the case. I'm standing beside the first one here, and this has been destroyed for over a year. Commuters have been complaining for a while now, and apparently it causes a lot of havoc. For instance, if you are not careful and you fall into it, your tire can't get burst. And I understand for the VVIP buses that pass here, the articulator trucks that pass here, it has a heavy load over these over a long while. So because of that, the gratings over here have been destroyed. Moving forward, you realize that it poses a lot of risk for commuters. And this morning, when we arrived, there was one small vehicle that was trying to show its might, but unfortunately, it couldn't, and it fell into the gratings. And unfortunately for him, there were some passerbys who were around, and then they helped him lift his vehicle out of the drain. I don't know if you've received footage of that. And so you realize that if you want to test your driving skill, this will be a very good place for you. I'm not sure DVLA is watching at the moment, but if you want to test your students, this is one place you can. And this side, and this last one is quite close to the main road. So unfortunately for vehicles who can maneuver their way over the drain, they have to force themselves close to the barrier, to the main road, so that they avoid the drain completely. Otherwise, they will fall into it and might destroy their vehicle completely. If you look at it, this is the situation right now for commuters. There was a lady who was saying that they've been complaining about the situation, but unfortunately, nothing has been done so far. Right now, they are doing some Operation Clean Your Frontage, so we are hoping once the situation is seen, they will come to their aid. Because at the moment, okay. Yeah, so you can just see how the vehicles are applying the road over here. It's posing a lot of risk. It's creating havoc to vehicles. And for commuters who use this side, I urge that you be careful when you are using this side. You will notice a big vehicle coming at the moment. And you see, for vehicles like this who use this side over a long period of time, that's what happens. They find it easy to use the road. Unfortunately, over an extended period of time, they destroy the drains. And we urge the local assembly to come and fix this as soon as possible. We pray that it had been a situation of it being missing where somebody had stolen it, but unfortunately that is not the case. It has been destroyed for a while now, and it's creating a lot of risk. So this is the situation here at Ebony at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle interchange. Back to you, Kaf, in the studio.
Wow. Hey, which kind of attack is this?
This is a matter of the KBN tax that we talked about 12 weeks ago. The KBN tax is the Kwasia Binti tax. CCTV catches that person, and that person must be fined. We don't need that person to go to jail.
No, you find him.
They must be fined lots of money. Yes. And if they don't have it,
lash them.
That person. No, I don't like.
You lash them like Singapore. You advise Singapore.
But I don't like the caning. You see, put the person to some hard labor.
Okay.
Use them. Let them work. In fact, you let them use teaspoon to fetch the dirt out of Odo and serve it to lunch for them for 6 weeks.
What kind
of nonsense is this?
What
is this?
Let's do one last story before we jump out of here. And this has to do with land borders being closed, and a call by the minority to reopen the land borders now. The minority leader, Mr. Haruna Idrisu has a few thoughts that he wants to share. Let's listen to him.
I'll call on President Nana Addo-Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the President of the Republic of Ghana, supported by his Minister for Health and Minister for Interior, to take urgent practical steps for the reopening of Ghana's land borders to allow for free flow of persons and goods across ECOWAS and the rest of the world. Post-COVID, we are not out of the woods yet, but we want to see a return to normalcy with the movement of goods and services through our borders. And therefore, whatever proactive measures government needs to take, there can be no justification for the continuous closure of Ghana's land borders. Therefore, as a minority, our primary concern this afternoon is to call on the President as chair of ECOWAS to do that which is needful to give meaning to the resolutions he so chaired for ECOWAS to pass, to allow and facilitate the free movement of goods and services.
And that was Mr. Haruna Idrisu, the minority leader in Parliament, speaking about a call for the land borders of Ghana to be reopened. Now, on the line, we have somebody who actually represents some people in this country who are affected by the closure of the land borders. The Member of Parliament for Ketu South, Abla Jifa Gomashi. Wizon, good morning. Welcome to the show. Good to have you here. Tell us how the closure of the borders has affected the people of your constituency.
Oh, thank you so much for the interest, and on behalf of the people of Ketu South, I want to thank GTV for carrying the story. I also want to seize the opportunity to greet my two brothers who are with you. I come way back with them. Now, listen, Kafui, you know that in most of the border communities in our country, the people who benefit from it, apart from the state, are mostly the women and the youth who cross the border carrying goods to go and sell and bringing some in to come and sell. In the last 2 years, in my specific constituency, that has not been happening. And if you dare want to cross, you have to pay. I'm putting this on record. You have to pay individuals to allow you to cross. I am sure that if we did a forensic test of checks, rather, of the accounts, there will be people who have been enriched because of this closure of the border, and it is not the people who live around that community. The effect of the border is incredible. If you fry yam at the border, if you roast plantain, if you sell tofu, we call dokuwi. If you are an abatachola in Accra will be hire you. If that's what you do at the border, for 2 years that the borders have been closed, there's nothing else for you to do. Remember that in the same community, we've had the effect of the tidal wave for the whole year 2021. So if you were frying fish to go and sell at the border is closed, so you would have been selling it in Afla, was one other market close by. The sea has taken your boat and your house, so you've had to move somewhere else to go and do what? The effect is so dire. Half the time in Parliament, I'm sitting there thinking, what are they doing with themselves now? It's a crushing feeling, you know, a sense of helplessness. That's their representative sitting in there, going to end salary because they decided to agree that we must have a democracy which allows them to vote for me to sit there to earn salary. And after they have put me there to earn salary, they are sitting there hungry. And I'm speaking for His Excellency President Nana Addo-Dankwa Akufo-Addo and myself, because even if he got 2 votes from that constituency, it's the reason why he's president, right? So, when is he and I going to turn and look at the people who are ensuring that we sit in those vehicles, that we are able to do all the things that we are able to do. When are we going to do that?
What are the arguments? What are the arguments from the Ministry of Interior as to the continued closure of the borders? What are they saying? Why are they justifying this?
Listen, the Honourable Gentleman of Parliament has regurgitated the same excuses of COVID and how they are planning. For 2 years, you are still planning. For 2 years. The ridiculous reason he gave me was that it's not only Ghana that is doing this, and so we should be patient with the state. And also, if we wanted to travel, we should apply to his office and it will be done. I am sitting in Parliament with over 84,000 votes. Over 84,000 people voted for me. If I am going to travel, I should write a letter. Also, the people who ensure that I'm sitting there, I'm not going to write a letter on their behalf too. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And by the way, I'm asking, is West Africa, is it bigger than Europe? Is West Africa bigger than the United States of America? And so if they can figure out what to do, why are we doing this to ourselves? Why can't we come up with something that works for ordinary people? After all, COVID on record came through the airport. You found a way to deal with that. So those of us, the upper echelons of the social strata, we are able to move in and out of this country. But the ordinary people who find they're living across the land borders, they are hemmed in with no social intervention to alleviate their suffering. That's unfair. It's unreasonable, and the country should not treat its citizens like that.
So what can you do now? Is there any sense of hope? Is there light at the end of the tunnel concerning this?
I'm at my wit's end, Kafi. I'm at my wit's end. I've screened myself hoarse. I've used every opportunity I have to speak on behalf of my people, but the people who I'm speaking to have refused to listen to me, and that's very unfortunate. It's sad that this is happening. We chose to have one person represent over 86,000 people in one constituency. We chose that. We chose that. So if we allow the people to gnash their teeth and be in agony, and we look away, we turn a blind eye, it's unfair. It's not acceptable. I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do anymore. We've gone on a demonstration. We have filed a question. We filed a statement. We have appealed on every platform available to His Excellency the President. I have not even had one response beyond the same minister coming to give me the same answers every time I file the question. I haven't heard what His Excellency is thinking about us. I haven't heard anything. And, you know, it truly does aggravate me when people say, but why do you want the president to speak? Come on. Come on, y'all. Why am I speaking on behalf of the people of Ketusa? This is because I'm the person who represents them at this level. So what's wrong with His Excellency saying that I feel you, I see you, I know you are suffering, this and that is what I'm doing in the interim. It's 2 years. We haven't heard anything. I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do anymore.
Finally,
I sound like a broken record, so I decided that maybe I should just commit it to prayer as we do in Ghana.
While you're praying about it,
going to fall from heaven.
Yeah. While you're praying about it, have you considered joining up with all the other MPs whose constituencies are around the entire borderline? Because Aplau is not the only land border of Ghana. There are other MPs. Have you come together to kind of try and make a concerted front, a concerted effort to speak to the authorities to get this done?
Well, Kafri, we are members of parliament, right? So when Honorable Tofe of Jamel did a statement, we discussed it. We all spoke about it on that day. I don't know if we are going to come together now and march and go and occupy Flagstaff House, or if we are going to go to the Ministry of Interior to picket there. I don't know what else we can do, because on the floor of Parliament, the Hansas will confirm that we have, for each of us, We've spoken about it.
Okay.
And the Minister for Interior, anytime he comes, he reminds me that he also has a border. But I ask, for me in particular, as Member of Parliament, and I like to call myself the blessed Member of Parliament for Ketu South, my constituency, if you take 2 steps, it goes straight into the capital of another city. That situation is unique to my community. And so you cannot even equate the same thing.
All right.
You see, somebody lives in Aflau and fetches water in right across the barbed wire.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, the intensity or the gravity of the situation
is different.
Not really the same across the country.
Well,
but what I'm saying is that even if it is or isn't, it doesn't matter. What is important is that anybody whose source of livelihood is from the border
all right.
has been shortchanged, and they're struggling. They're struggling to survive.
Okay. We thank you for telling us exactly what the situation is, and just in 30 seconds, you want to say something to your constituents so that they get the import of what we've just discussed.
Thank you so much. Nyato katu mayomi zia mayomi clever versus stella kotanam hala la jinam demiata bana dukolana semia kona semia balido do ya veya malia dum achuto kakamia na gbadodo rajisia ajina ga la fona miolo jida fona mienya la klio mienya poklio mienya miawenya katu wala ajina no miashi agbana kokoga gbadagba yoma miano ngochi bablaji miano ashia klom mia jagbagba na mia gano mi mira miano makuku dana mi bana la dudu ya ji ma mi jujo kuma tutuna miano nyola bana dolale ya dana mayo kona na manovie nyema ta man kuma tutula la dudu ma na to akbana mi lo so jana tuchira mashia maji kafi. I'm grateful.
Thank you, Akbana Oha. So that's the Honourable Member of Parliament for Ketu South, Ablajifa Gomashi, and the translation was basically she was just telling her people to not lose hope and stay strong, and then also added an anti-COVID message there for them to respect the protocols in this time that we are in. COVID hasn't disappeared. So she's just asking them to be just strong, and things will get better. Just keep praying and respecting the protocols as well. That was her final point. We're almost out of time. Final comments. I'll start with you, Oscar, first of all. Brief comments on the borders.
Yeah, I love the passion with which she's speaking. She's speaking for her people. That's why she was voted for and elected for and representing her people. I can fully understand her pain and her anguish and what the citizens are going through. Yet the consideration for keeping the borders closed, and as you pointed out rightly, that the borders issue is far broader than just that particular area. What the considerations are for the minister, from the Ministry of Interior and for government and all of that. Are there any considerations when we close our borders? Are there any discussions with our partners on the other side? And all of these things come.
More conversations required.
More conversations, and I think that. I hope they do open the borders. We know the impact that it's going to have on the livelihoods, and people are really suffering. Right. But I also think that keeping Ghanaians safe, if that is the consideration, we should still not overlook it. Okay. China recently has had new cases of about 5,800 or so cases a day, which is unprecedented for them. They've shut down a whole city of 14 million people. They banned 14 million people from moving out of their city. So we're still not out of the woods. Okay. And so we still have to be mindful of not importing, in quotes, and bringing in. So let's make sure that the same safety measures that have been put at the airport are going to be the same safety
at the land borders.
At the land borders.
All right. Okay. Kwesi.
Plus the issues of insurgents coming in and all of that have to be dealt with as well.
Kwesi, thanks a lot. Briefly.
When I speak to my friends who work in medicine around the world, whether they're in Australia, New Zealand, the US, Canada, China, and all over the world, I find it laughable that what kills us most, we're not even serious about. Malaria kills us more than everything. Now, let's be honest. Anybody who is in a position of authority, anybody who is in a position of power, is also doing customer service. Whether you're NDC, MPP, CPP, or Duna party, remember this. Unconcern and silence are no responses to the concerns of any citizen of yours, whether they are in your constituency or not, so long as you're in government. The least that we can do is to hear from the Minister for Interior. Silence is not a response. It just unconcern. And this is not about parties. This is about the absolute carelessness of individuals who have been elevated into positions of authority by the president, who make the president look bad. Because the president has put his trust in you. That is why he has appointed you. If he could do the work of all the ministers, he wouldn't need to appoint you. So if people are concerned about something and they have spoken about it, speak. Speak. You are a master? Speak. Thy servant listeneth so that he may hear.
Amen.
You know, but just to sit there and not say anything worries me. Now, you're talking about, maybe people will bring in COVID from Ghana and Togo. People cross the border to go and pee. People cross the border to go to school. And I know children who are still going to school, some from Togo into Ghana, some from Ghana into Togo. I'm wondering if their parents are having to pay bribes every morning for their children to go to school. But for those who do not know, internationally, one of those nations that kind of closed down to ensure that COVID was not coming in there was New Zealand. And their leader, a woman, and maybe we need more women leaders, Jacinda Ardern, has announced that she's opening their airspace, she's opening all their borders on the 1st of May so that they can welcome the world back
to New Zealand.
But they're saying you have to be vaccinated to come in.
Simple.
And then she's even gone further to say, but for Australia, our neighbors, we are opening earlier. They are opening on the 12th of April. So when you have a leader, and I'm using her as an example because I'm not looking for bad examples, I'm looking for good examples. I'm using her as a leader for everybody who's a leader, whether you're working at McDonald's or KFC in Ghana. If you have a position of leadership, share information with the people in advance.
Indeed.
Don't hold all the information to your chest and then all of a sudden come and announce something and expect everybody to jump. Let people plan ahead.
Thank you so much.
So when is Ghana opening? Because if you ask me, Ghana has been open for a while.
Thank you so much. We are closed right now on this segment. KD and Oscar Provençal have been my guests. Thank you to Honorable Abla Jifa-Gobashi, MP for Ketu South, for your comments. And your comments are coming on 055-556-1034. Still to come, we have a conversation on transportation of explosives. Valerie will take charge of that. And then Mr. Johnson Asiru in Ketiap will sit down with Thelma to talk about issues and matters arising. This is GTV Breakfast. You stay with us. Do not go anywhere. And good to have you here.
GBC everywhere. We are streaming live on Facebook as the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, live on YouTube as the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. We are on Twitter as the GBC Ghana and Instagram as GBC Online. And so, as we do every week, we are sitting down with the people from the ministry. We are looking today at measures that transporting explosive. We've been doing this for the past 2 weeks, and this is the third week in session. We are going to be continuing, and we are going to be looking at measures when transporting explosives. Some measures have been put in place already, but there are the additional 14 that we've been discussing for the past 2 weeks. And we have Mr. John Amweni. He's the Acting Chief Inspector of Mines of the Minerals Commission, and he's joining us, sitting down on the table for this discussion. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Amweni, which region are you representing?
Upper East.
Upper East.
Yes.
So what's your name?
My name is Naba Amweni. Yes.
Oh, welcome then. Right, sir. Ms. Amweni, can you recap the measures we've put in place and the conversations we've had for the last couple of weeks before we delve into today's conversation proper?
Okay, thank you very much. Before that explosion at Apiati, in fact, we were thinking that the industrial players, that the explosive dealers, explosive companies, mining companies, they could self-regulate. You see, they have explosive managers, they have competent people. So that was a thinking that they could self-regulate. But after we have now noticed that we need to be involved. Previously, we were doing it periodically, but now we need to involve in all their doings. So we find it appropriate to come out with these additional measures. So for, like, if they want to do some transportation of explosives, you need to notify the Chief Inspector of Mines or the regional manager, so that the regional manager will assign an inspector to be on site to do inspection, verification of the various safety rules and then protocols before the transportation of the explosive. The inspector will also look whether the truck being used for the transportation of explosive is in a good working condition, and also a competent person will be in the transportation of the explosives. The other things we also want to look at is also to ensure that the driver driving the explosive truck is qualified, has a driving license, has gone through some inductions.
Right.
We also want to know the requirements. We have talked about explosive truck. What are the requirements for the explosive truck? Formally, it were not specified, but because of this, we came out with the additional measures. We came out with the requirement for the various trucks that it should have the red flashing light. It should have the automatic fire suppression system, the tracking system, and then you should have a megaphone to make noise in case there's a danger, and then all those things we came out. We also noticed that if you read the regulation 107 of the LI 2177, what is there is not clearly. So we talk about the escort, whether the escort person should be in the vehicle or the escort person should be in a different vehicle.
Right.
So we also look at that one. They have two escorts, one leading and making a distance of about 50 meters, one also behind. Then we came out of all these things. There should be a code of safe operating procedure for the transportation of explosive. And then we also said that the speed of the escort vehicle should be like the same speed of the explosive truck, which is 60 kilometers per hour. We also mentioned that, and then also was also saying that based on the additional measures, that the production of AMFO is banned, is prohibited. The transportation of AMFO is prohibited once the AMFO can be manufactured on site. So that is what we say. Those ones we can import, that one we will just do the transportation. But those ones we can do it locally. Why not just move to the site
and do it
do
instead of transporting it? Right. Okay.
So we came out with all these things, and that is the additional. That's what I would just say. So what we are urging the public that they need to also look out to see whether the industrial players are going by the additional measures, the explosive dealers are going by the additional measures. We have just engaged all of them. So it is our hope that they go by the additional measures we put in place.
Okay. Mr. Mwini, how often does the Commission conduct an audit of explosive magazines, installations, and the general equipment?
Okay, for the auditing of this, we need to talk about how explosives are managed. It's very, very important. You need to understand explosives. And then you need to also understand how explosives are managed. So I'll answer your question and also come to the management of explosive itself. You see, for every year, we need to conduct this audit. Conduct auditing of explosive magazines, installations, equipment. We do that one every day. And then we have even planned one in April.
You do it every
year. But periodically, the inspectors also do regular inspections on the explosive magazines, installations, and equipment.
How regular is regular?
Every month they visit the mines.
Okay.
But the yearly one is special one. We
Right.
normally do. That is what we have even planned to do that one in the month of April. So the month of April, we have ruled the dates and then schedule everything, which will be done in the month of April. But before we also do this, we need to know how explosives are managed. It's very, very important, the management of explosives.
What is entailed in the general management of explosives?
Okay. So in the management of explosives, you see, explosives, you need to, first of all, understand explosives. Explosives are dangerous goods, very, very dangerous goods. But without explosives, we can also not mine. There will not be any mining for both surface and underground, the quarries and then all those. So we need explosives. So we need to just think how we manage this explosive safely and then at the same time secure. We are talking about safety, that it will not harm us. We are talking about the security. That is, it will not get into the wrong hands so that they will just use the explosives to harm us. So that all those things we need to consider. We also need to know the properties of explosives. First of all, what is explosive? If you say explosive, what is explosive? So any mixture of chemicals that releases gases and heat at high velocity and causing high pressures, that is explosive. And then for this one, you need to know the properties of explosive. What are the properties of explosive? So we are talking about, it can be sensitivity. If you say sensitivity, so how is explosive can explode? We also talk about the sensitiveness. Sensitiveness means the ability of explosives to propagate a detonation.
Right.
Yes. And then we talk about the velocity of the detonation. We talk also about the shelf life. If you say shelf life, that's the tendency of the explosive. And then you see it has an issue. If the explosive expired, it can detonate at any time. So always need to just look at whether it has reached its
expiration date or not.
Its shelf life. One other thing is we need to also know whether the explosive is oxygen balance. If you say oxygen balance, every explosive material should be oxygen balance. What we are saying is that the oxidizer and then the fuel oil we use to prepare this one should be balanced.
Right.
If you have more oxidizer, that is the ammonium nitrate. If you have more ammonium nitrate, if you are preparing like blasting agent, you need ammonium nitrate and then you need a fuel oil. And then it should be at the right composition. So if you prepare it and then the ammonium nitrate, which is the oxidizer, is higher, what it means is that the end result will be you have the nitrous fumes.
Right.
If it's also the ammonium nitrate is also less, you also have a gas called carbon monoxide. I don't know whether when we were in school we learned those things. Carbon monoxide. Yes. So it is very, very dangerous gas. It's a lighter gas and it's always at your height level. And then when it gets to your bloodstream, what it does is that it absorbs the oxygen in your bloodstream. And at a particular concentration, you will die. And then you will not feel, because the properties of the carbon monoxide, it is tasteless, colorless, you cannot see, you cannot. So when we have carbon monoxide here, you will not even feel, you will not feel carbon monoxide. So by the time you realize you're almost gone.
Right.
Yes. So that is what I would just say about. So we need to know the properties before we can manage the explosives.
Manage
and then in the management of explosives, we are talking about how explosives are conveyed, or the transportation of how explosives are used, how explosives are handled, how explosives are stored. So these are the things we are talking about. So we need to manage all these things very well,
right,
so that we don't get accidental detonation.
Right. So, Mr. Moini, while we are talking about professionals and how to properly safeguard these explosives when you are transporting them, do we have any additional measures that are going to be put in place for the people who actually live in these mining communities? For instance, what happened at Apiate? If maybe the people had been sensitized that if a truck carrying explosive is on its way via here, do not use the same route. Are there any measures that have been put in place for the people in the mining communities themselves to be aware and have certain red flags and know that this is a red flag and this is a red flag?
Okay. So thank you very much. You see, if you look at the additional measures, we have some one of them, you have to prepare safe operating procedure. And that one should be along the public road, because the explosives, you use explosives, you transport explosives through the public road from one mine to another mine through the public road. So what it means is that the safe operating procedure should take care of all these things. You need to do risk assessment along the public road to ensure that maybe a particular town is a market day. So in this case, you will not even transport these explosives. Listen, formerly we were not doing it. So for now, what we are just urging the mining companies is that they need to. They were doing the sensitization in their own locality. But they were not thinking that the explosives will be traveling from one community to another community.
Towns, yeah.
So now you are doing it in your own locality. Now you need to extend wherever the truck passes. You need to just do sensitization alongside. So that one will capture in the procedures.
Right, Mr. Medina, what are the requirements or the level of competencies for personnel who man explosives?
Okay. So for this one, I just want to quote from the regulation. If you look at the regulation 6 of LI 2177, I just want to read. If you read the sub-regulation 1, that is 6.1, it says, a holder of a mineral right in relation to which explosives are used, and a manager shall, in relation to the use of explosives, and at that manager's control, appoint a person with a valid explosives manager certificate as explosives manager. So before you can even operate or deal in explosives, you should appoint a qualified, a valid person who holds explosive certificate of competency to be the manager. If you read the 2, it says a manager shall ensure that activities that involve explosives, accessories, or precursor substances are A, managed by a certified explosives manager, and then B, carried out only by competent and certified person. If you say competent and certified person, a person with explosive certificate of competency, that person can conduct blasting in underground, blasting on surface, and then also can handle explosives. And then, the C, carried out only if the licenses and permits required are in place. So before you can just do all these things, you need to ensure that you have all the licenses, you have all the permits before you can just deal in these explosives. And then the last thing, one last thing we need to also remind us is that the appointment of the competent persons does not relieve the holder of the mineral, the owner of the explosive company. Even though you appoint all these things, you also need to. You cannot be relieved of responsibilities under these regulations. So if you look at this one, in a nutshell, those people involved, you need to have a person with explosive certificate of competency, and then you should also have a person with explosives manager certificate of competency, and then you also have a person with a safety, because if you read the regulation 49, it says you need to appoint safety officer.
Yeah.
So there should also be a safety officer to ensure that the PPEs and other safety measures are also in place and then it's also complied with.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Amini. Thank you for coming on the show. I'm sure we'll see you again because there's more to discuss.
Thank you very much.
Any final words you want to before we wrap up?
What I would say is that the management of explosives, we need to be very careful. We need to appoint right people to do the management of explosives, as spelled out in the regulations. Right. And then there's other aspect of the regulation. If you look at the same regulation, 2015, all this regulation talk about the competent, a person who with a certificate of competency. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Mini. Mr. John Amweni is the Acting Chief Inspector of Mines of the Minerals Commission, and we've been having a sit-down with the Minerals Commission talking about measures at transporting explosives, and there are 14 new additional measures and safety protocols that have been established to deal with safe transportation of mining explosives. The hashtag to follow is GTV Breakfast. We are live on all our social media handles, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Coming up next is The Scoop. We're going to have a conversation with the General Secretary of the NDC, Mr. Johnson Asiedun Ketia. We'll be right back.
In the first 2 years, your baby will experience
still Breakfast Live on GTV, Heritage Month on GTV as well. Today I'm representing the Central Region as I have since Monday, and I'm dressed like an Abor princess who has just been outdoored after her puberty rites. So my parents at least are receiving applications for suitably qualified candidates, and this is a part of our culture and we appreciate it. Today we are continuing yesterday's conversation, and we've been talking about the Supreme Court ruling on the voting rights of deputy speakers of parliament. The majority had their say yesterday at the table. Today we've invited the General Secretary of the NDC, and he's at the table with me, Mr. Johnson Esedun Ketia, popularly known as General Mosquito. He's here to tell us why the opposition is so opposed to the ruling and what it means, in his opinion, for our democracy and parliamentary sovereignty. And so we'll get straight into the business. In between time, we'll read your comments on our WhatsApp number 055-5561-034, and we'll be making some references to some portions of what the Honorable Afenyo Marking told us yesterday when he sat with us. Mr. Johnson Esedun Ketia, Marche.
Yeah, no.
Say for what to say.
Pacho, yeah,
Ukrum for the Papa. I saw one interview of you where you said if the former President Rawlings, God rest his soul, had not discovered you and mentored you and worked with you, you would be farming cassava in Sekwa.
Yes.
That was really funny. But the Supreme Court is the matter that has brought you here today, and the verdict came out last week. They followed up with a 29-page reason for the ruling. Why is the NDC so upset about what the Supreme Court ruled?
Well, thank you very much, and good morning to listeners. Let me say that I was not alerted to this Heritage Month celebration. Maybe that is why I'm
decked out in your suit.
But it's not out of place, so I'll pretend to be a colonial governor. So
that's a good one. A black colonial governor.
Black colonial governor. Yes, having said that, you see, when you participate in the writing of a document, you have the advantage of knowing the arguments that went into the various provisions as they were put there. And so before your death, and whilst you are still alive, you see your intentions being, interpreted wrongly. At times, you are amazed. You don't know what to do. I think that I have read the ruling, and one of the main reasons why the ruling came out as it did, according to the Supreme Court, was that there was somehow they were weighing the need for impartiality against the right of representation of the constituents of the deputy speakers. And so they somehow came to a wrong conclusion that they believed the intention of the framers of the Constitution was not to place the need for impartiality above the right of representation. And that is where I found them wrong. Because in actual fact, everything in the Constitution indicates that we place the need for the speaker's impartiality and the need to avoid conflict of interest far higher than the representation that they were talking about. So we got our intentions wrong. That is why I think that the ruling was wrong. For instance, when you look at the Constitution, you see that we intentionally made the Speaker a non-MP, and therefore took away either the main vote or casting vote. But there were ways of dealing with the issue of casting vote. So in our Constitution, this casting vote thing does not come at all when you are considering voting in Parliament House. A casting vote, the need for a casting vote arises where you have a tie in any election on the floor of Parliament. On the floor of Parliament. Now, when you have that tie, there are several ways of dealing with it. One of the ways is to allow the presiding officer a casting vote so that the tie will be broken. Because we valued the need for impartiality, we still felt that giving the Speaker a casting vote will still bring him into the arena of controversy. Then he becomes part of the debate. You understand? So we put it there that in case of a tie, the motion or the issue should be considered lost. So there cannot be any controversy about a vote tying and the need for a tiebreaker. Our tiebreaker is that you must get a clear majority supporting the motion, or the motion is considered lost. So that is why when people are saying that the Constitution spoke about the primary vote and said that somebody can have a primary vote, but they did not ban a casting vote. There is no need for casting vote at all, because we made a provision that whenever there is a tie over anything, that is considered lost. Now, the reason is that we still felt that whoever is presiding must stay clear of the issues and must exercise the impartiality of an umpire. Period. Now, when you come to consider this representation issue that the Supreme Court seems to be hanging on, the same Constitution, we provided somewhere that even where an issue borders on an MP's personal business interest or any issue where he has a personal interest, he should not participate in the voting. Is the Supreme Court telling us that if I'm a businessman and I have a company and there is a motion about taxation that affects my company and I'm asked to stay out of the voting, in that case, how does my constituency get its right of representation in that particular motion? They don't. But there's no problem with it. So it tells you clearly that we place the need for impartiality, we place the need for avoidance of conflict of interest far above this issue of representation when it comes to speaker and deputy speakers. Because, again, the issue of denial or lack of representation is temporary when you come to consider deputy speakers. We recognize that they must be members of parliament. And they lose that vote when they are performing the functions of a speaker. When they walk out of that function, they resume their votes. It's the same way when there is an issue that affects your personal or business interest. You must walk out of it. After that issue had been settled, you come and you resume your votes and you can continue exercising your representation or whatever it is in the other issues.
So you had the benefit of working on the documents that we have now.
Yes, yes. So my signature is in the original constitution, the one we went into referendum with. I represented Wenchi district on the consultative assembly.
And that's why you think that as one of those who wrote the language and one of those who had the behind-the-scenes knowledge that went into writing the constitution, do you think that that argument was available to those who ruled on this case? Because the Supreme Court judges, they are the custodians of interpreting the tenets of the Constitution.
Look,
and it's up to them to say what you wrote, what you put in this document means. And they said what you put there is not what it means.
Again, I think that in my view is an argument. Because you see, elsewhere, when there is a need to do thorough work, nothing prevents the Supreme Court, if they want to understand the background, the official records of the Consultative Assembly are still available. And it is permissible if you want to understand the arguments that led to certain provisions being made. If you want to do thorough and diligent work, you can, it's available, it's official record, they can go and look at it. I'm not saying that is part of the law. But again, when you look at the practicality of the ruling, it is absurd. And it can create confusion on the floor of the House. Why do I say so? You see, when you come to take decisions, about 90% of the decisions are taken by voice vote. Okay? Where the presiding officer will put a question and will ask that those, as many as are in favor, shout aye. Then they say aye. As many as are against or no, then you say no. By this ruling, are we going to say that when the speaker puts the question, because when the question is put, the speaker is quiet so he can weigh the weight of the ayes and noes, so he can then. Are you saying that when the speaker himself is shouting aye or is shouting low, he can still access the volume of the voices and still be able to separate his role as a representative from his role as an umpire? So after shouting no, then he comes to declare that it is the ayes that have it or it is the noes that have it. The practicality is problematic. Now, if we are going to say that, well, as for the shouting, he should not be part of it, but he should be part of the head count or a division or anything, that is also problematic. Because you see, a head count or a division is triggered when somebody challenges the speaker's ruling on a voice vote. You understand? So if the speaker will be quiet so that he can listen to both sides and judge, it means that he will not participate in the voice voting. Now, if he doesn't participate in the voice voting and he rules that it is the ayes that have it, and a member gets up to say that, Mr. Speaker, I disagree with your verdict, so I'm going to challenge your verdict. Okay. It is at that time that either a head count comes in or a division comes in. A head count where those who are supportive of aye will get up, be counted. Those who are supportive of no will get up and be counted. A division comes in where everybody, we vacate the place and people will actually write their names and sign so that we have a complete record of those who voted aye and those who voted no. The problem we may be having is that where the speaker does not participate in the voice vote and somebody challenges the speaker's ruling, he's saying that in his ears heard the yes and no's differently from what the speaker heard. Okay. So let us count and see how many people shouted aye, how many people shouted no. And you say that the speaker should get up from his seat and now come and join. If he comes to join, it's problematic because he did not participate in the shouting that is being challenged. So it presents a situation like when there is a counting of votes at a polling station and somebody calls for recounting. Then another person comes from farm and said that when the voting was happening, I wasn't there, but my name is in the voters register, so let me add my vote before you do the counting. Then it ceases to be recounting because with the shouting of ayes and noes. So if somebody is challenging the speaker's ruling, he's challenging the volume of the ayes and the volume of the noes as the speaker heard it. And since the speaker did not participate in the shouting, then it will be problematic to now add him to either side. I hope you follow the argument
I'm following you, but
yes,
the Supreme Court disagrees.
If you want, why?
And the ruling that they gave.
That is why I'm saying their ruling is absurd, completely absurd, because you cannot participate in a rerun or a recounting of ballots if you did not vote and there is a challenge about the counting. And you say that because I wasn't here when they were voting the first round. So now there is recounting. The recounting is about the ballots that are already in the box that have been secured at the close of poll. So if the counting happens once, and I say I disagree, I believe that maybe some ballots have been counted twice or so. So let us go back, do the recounting, do the counting again to establish the real numbers. Nobody can then come and say that before the voting, after the close of the voting, because my name is in the voters register, let me add my vote before you count. And if you want the speaker to participate in the shouting too, that is also problematic. And so it is very clear that the framers of the Constitution put premium on the need to avoid conflict of interest. They put premium on the impartiality of the person presiding, because there are several areas where an MP who still represents a constituency is barred from participating in the vote. So if the argument is that they cannot be denied their voting, what about where the Constitution specifically says that if you have a conflict of interest, you cannot vote? What is a better conflict of interest or a worse conflict of interest in a situation where you are presiding? You will recognize persons to contribute. If I am presiding and I am supportive of a certain side, and it is up to me to call those who will contribute, nothing prevents those I believe are supportive of a particular side. But that is the discretion of a speaker. So if you assume that seat, you don't lose anything. The people of Bekwai don't lose anything, because it is their representative who will now assume the right of recognizing any of the 274 MPs to even have the right to speak. It is their representative who assume the right to even walk other MPs away from the floor of Parliament if he believes that they are contravening the rules. So that even puts the interests of the people of Bekwai or whatever constituency they are representing even higher than the others. And to tell you the truth, nobody, the position of a deputy speaker It's not foisted on anybody. People contest for it. And you go in knowing the powers you are going to exercise and the limitations that you will be suffering.
On contesting of the position of Deputy Speaker,
yeah.
There's a piece that I put to your good friend, Honorable Afenyo Makin, when he came here yesterday, written by Professor Kwesi Prempe, a constitutionalist, and he made he proffered a number of opinions on the Supreme Court ruling. One of the things he said is there's a reason why, since Parliament started, the deputy speakers have always come from opposing parties.
Yes.
And so one of the things that he thinks the NDC may have got wrong is to allow for the two deputy speakers to be de facto members. Those are the words he used, de facto members of the same party, considering the fact that the independent candidate has opted to do business with the government side of the House. And he thinks that you shot yourself in the foot by allowing even the two deputy speakers to be from the same party. Is that something you find credible?
Very credible. I share some of his concerns, but I believe that nobody thought, in fact, our side in Parliament, they thought that when somebody enters Parliament on the ticket of, he goes there as an independent, he is barred by the Constitution from joining a side on the floor in Parliament permanently, as has been done in this case. If you are an independent candidate, the law prevents you from declaring that I belong to this party. And if it does not belong to NPP, then the speaker's ruling that there must be a majority side, so therefore there is somebody called majority leader and minority leader, is with all due respect wrong and problematic. Because you see, you cannot eat your cake and have it. He is either an MPP person, which makes the MPP majority, or he is an independent person, in which case there is no majority in Parliament. But they try to find a formula that on one hand recognizes him as part of MPP, therefore making...
He wrote to the Speaker stating his intention...
and that is why I said that the Speaker ought...
the NPP in the House.
The Speaker ought not to have admitted that in all, because the earlier Speaker, that this man couldn't be in Parliament when, during their primaries, at the later part of the previous term, he opted to go independent. Speaker Michael Quay ruled that because he has opted to go independent, he ceases to be a member of the then Parliament. It's a ruling in the House there. So if you come and that ruling has not changed,
but that was before the election, and that was before his constituents gave him the power to come.
Yes, you are not listening to the point I'm making.
Okay.
The point I'm making is that Speaker Michael Quay interpreted the law that debars MPs from crossing carpet. Okay. And he said that for the fact that the Honorable Asiama had filed to contest the 2020 election as an independent candidate, he has left NPP. So if he had left NPP, then his seat must be declared vacant. I remember he came, he actually drove him from the House or something. There was some drama about it. So it is a ruling by a previous Speaker that is still there and is still valid. So if we are to go by precedence, why would you now accept an application by the same person who is from, who has now come,
been stepped down,
been elected now as an independent candidate? Why would you accept an application for him to now go and do business with the MPP? When he was leaving MPP, they declared his seat vacant. And now, and so he became independent. He won and came to Parliament. And he's now going to he writes to you, why won't you declare his seat vacant? So that I have always not hidden my strong views about that.
You think the Speaker called it wrong on that occasion?
Yes.
Okay.
The Speaker got it wrong. That is why I have always insisted that when you have 137, there is no majority in Parliament. So the pronouncement by Mr. Speaker that there is something called majority side, minority side, when a previous Speaker had ruled that the person who was still having the mandate of MPP at that time when the nominations were being filed, he was still having the mandate of MPP. He has been voted. His tenure had not ended. But the fact that he opted to file his nomination with Electoral Commission as an independent candidate, that was sufficient for Michael Oquaye to drive him out of Parliament and declare his seat vacant. I think it was a letter written by MPP to Speaker Michael Oquaye. And he ruled on the floor of the House that the man cannot be a sitting member of Parliament. So that same seat, Speaker's seat, was what Speaker Bagbin was occupying. And then the same person now writes to you that I want to do business. Why won't you declare his seat vacant?
The ruling by the Supreme Court recently alluded to the fact that Parliament, as we've been told countless times, is the one who makes its own rules. And in the ruling on page 24 yesterday, I referenced it. It said that it must be emphasized, however, that the procedural and/or operational rules to practice the protection of this constitutional right in a member presiding in the absence of a speaker and his or her duty to represent his or her constituents in the matters within the exclusive domain of Parliament itself, and that Parliament may achieve this by amending its orders or adopting parliamentary practices to give effect to this constitutional imperative. So it's telling people that even though the Supreme Court has ruled on the matter, Parliament makes its own rules. So could that be what may, and I'm just making a suggestion here, what may have informed the decision, because Parliament has that right to make provisions for its own self?
The Supreme Court has taken that right from Parliament to make that particular rule in this particular case. You understand? So if there are 3 routes leading to a particular destination and you block 2 and you say that it is up to me to choose the route that I want to follow to that destination, what are you saying? I should follow the single route that you have left open.
You think the Supreme Court has sort of usurped Parliament's powers?
No, I'm saying that they are just, I think that particular could be an afterthought because of the uproar of disagreement with that particular. You remember that the reasoning for the ruling came days after the ruling had been declared. Okay. So nothing prevents Supreme Court from listening to reactions before they go to actually write their arguments. So it's like beginning from an answer before you work down to the question or the formula. In my view, I think that was what happened in this particular case. And this unanimous ruling was ruling to, in my humble opinion, is not helping our democracy. Well, you see, it is out of clashes of opinion that sparks of truth emanate. The ruling itself indicates that this is a novelty. This is an area without precedence. So it is the best case where the individual Supreme Court judges ought to have been left to proceed with the arguments on their own, whether they arrive at the same conclusion or not. Then you have 7 arguments that will help explore the law and other things. And believe you me, I don't believe that, thinking along the same lines.
On this issue of
Malcolm X said that when two people agree always, one is a liar.
On this matter of unanimous rulings, your good friend, Mr. Afenyo-Markin, was here yesterday, and he said the NDC is overly making this case political.
Why?
And he made the fact that other rulings have favored the NDC in the past, and you haven't complained. But now, because this one does not favor. So let's listen to exactly what he said.
Did he mention a particular ruling?
So he mentioned a number of them. And so here is Mr. Afenyo-Markin yesterday on the program, and he made some comments about unanimous rulings or other Supreme Court rulings in the past.
When Mr. Sedun Ketia comes here, pin him to the earlier decisions that they supported. Pin him under the earlier decisions that they themselves supported under the Supreme Court decision on Akufo-Addo, Jacob Bechebilamte. When Mr. Sedun Ketia comes here, pin him to the earlier decisions that they themselves supported under Kojo Gadra. Pin him under the earlier decisions that they themselves supported under the Supreme Court decision on Akufo-Addo, Jacob Bechebilamte.
So those were some of the cases that he mentioned.
No, we are talking about two things.
Okay.
I'm talking about unanimous rulings.
Okay.
I'm not saying judgments that have gone in the favor of NDC or MPP or anything.
Okay.
I'm saying that if this is a novel situation, the better way of approaching the development was to allow the individual 7 judges to argue their judgments out and come and read them on the floor of the House, so we have different perspectives about the problem. But for you to listen to the submissions and go into some conclave, and for one person to come and say that all the 7 of us, this is the way we think. How can all the 7 people be thinking the same way for 19 pages?
So that's what you're saying now. But the fact remains that it's been done that way for a while. And
that's
the rulings have always come out.
This has been, the notoriety of these unanimous things, is more prevalent under the current Chief Justice. And I don't think that it is helping this country.
Okay, so that's
it's not
the point
helping the country at all, because let's listen to that. Because when you are developing the law and constitutional law, at times, from hindsight, people come to accept minority views in a particular case as a better judgment. You understand? So you are not allowing anybody to hear any minority view. Everything is like, I am chairing, this is the judgment. All of us, we concur. 19 pages, every word for word, all of us agree. Why was there a need for us to have a panel of judges? The panel of judges are provided for in the Constitution so that we can hear thinking of different people. And then when they all come from their various different angles and they read their judgment on the floor of the court, we will now know that 4 of the judgments are in this favor, 3 of them are against. And then everybody will, because that in itself is part of the ways of seeking fairness in dealing with cases.
So
when we came, when we did the revolution, we put tribunals, and we made sure that the tribunals run even from district level, regional level, and all that. So it is not a sole magistrate. The thinking behind it is that, from clashes of opinion, sparks of truth emanate. one person may be wrong. So if at the end of the day, a whole Supreme Court with panel of judges, all that we see is that when there is a case, one person comes with this thing and say that this is our judgment. All 7 of us, we agree. 19 pages, everything about it, we concur. You are not helping us to develop anything.
How do you respond to Honorable Afenyo-Markin's claims of the benefits that the NDC, according to him, has enjoyed from other rulings from the Supreme Court that you haven't complained about? He's suggesting that in the case of Akufo-Addo and Jacob Echebi-Lamte.
When was that?
So the one that we just played to
Who
you
was
now.
the Chief Justice?
Okay.
We are talking about the administration of justice under this current Chief Justice. The Supreme Court is not the same.
So is it the...
Let me tell you what. You remember that when Justice Anim Yeboah was nominated, Joe Wise was chairing the Appointments Committee. And Joe Wise, against all the opinions of the committee members, actually announced that the vetting will be done within, was it 3 days or something? When the committee had not advertised for opinions and submissions, memos from all over, as has been the normal practice. And there was a huge controversy. In the end, they made sure that the term was abridged only for this approval, vetting and approval to be railroaded. What was the thinking behind it? What was the thinking behind it? So if I help to railroad your appointment and my matter comes before you, can't you judge where it will fall?
You are suggesting that the Supreme Court and
I'm not
by
talking about the Supreme Court.
The appointment of the Chief Justice.
I'm saying that the appointment and approval of the Chief Justice was problematic, and it was engineered by this same Joe Wise, whose matter was being determined in the Supreme Court. These are facts. You can go to Parliament and look at the documents. They are all there.
You think the ruling is a bidding of the current government, the government in power?
I have never shied away from that. I have always said that I agree with the former head of the who said openly that when it comes to political cases, these judges and the Supreme Court will rule to favor their political bosses.
You don't think the court, at least in this case, the Supreme Court is independent to perform its functions the way it should?
From inside there has come to make this pronouncement. He has never been challenged. He has never been challenged. And then you come to a point where Judges and Magistrates Association, their leadership, comes out openly facing television cameras to say that their allowances and other things are withheld until, so they had to rely on their connections and to lobby the presidency for those allowances to be released. Why should it happen like that? Because the root of the independence of the judiciary is based on their financial independence. And that is why the Consultative Assembly provided that the allowances and charges and everything that has to relating to the judiciary must be a direct charge on the consolidated fund, so that no politician will have the right to withhold their allowance. Because if a politician has the right to withhold their allowances and emoluments or certain things, and they have to come and beg the politician to release them, when there is a case against that politician, they cannot.
Constitution granted the court the power to change some of these things. So any act of any agency or arm of government that, according to the Constitution or according to the Supreme Court, may act in ultra virus of the Constitution, it has the power to declare it null and void. So but the Constitution gave them that power.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And that is why I find it difficult to accept that. If you can interpret the Constitution and where your rights, your own rights, are being infringed upon, you cannot gather the courage to interpret the Constitution to make sure that your rights are vindicated, because they have the right to take their allowances and emoluments directly from the consolidated fund. They have no business going to pay anybody at the presidency. So if they cannot fight their own rights by citing the Constitution and making sure that whoever is withholding their rights or sitting on their rights is brought to book, and they have to go to lobby, that tells you how weak they could be.
The majority thinks the NDC is being unfair in being harsh on the judges and in its stance against the ruling of the Supreme Court. So again, I'll play you a piece of the interview with Honorable Afenyo
before
Marking.
you waste your time on this plain thing. You see, it's not about assertions. He has made assertions. I have made arguments I consider to be cogent. It is up to listeners and your good self to judge. It is not, we will be wasting our time listening to a rehash of the same argument without any substance. That, well, you are being too harsh. Why are we being harsh? You can't tell us. Why should we continue listening to that sort of thing?
Because in his opinion, the majority,
he hasn't said anything.
the majority side agree with the ruling, and they think that it is good for where we are in our current parliamentary democracy.
We disagree, and I have given the reasons. Let the listeners judge, and you can also judge. So there is no point in rehashing his argument, because he was here yesterday and he made those arguments. The same listeners followed. I have made counter arguments.
Some may have missed it, so because of them, we'll give it another go. And this is the Honorable Alexander Afenyo Marking, who sat with us.
Except from my speech and played it to him when he was here.
You weren't here then. So when next we invite him, we'll play yours.
My time to play his voice.
When next he is here, we'll play yours for him as well. So let's listen to what Honorable Afenyo Marking said yesterday.
I'm happy to be part of a discussion on the matters arising from the Supreme Court decision. But I must express disappointment in our colleagues in the NDC. I think that they have gained this unmatched notoriety for always scandalizing the courts, and it's all about, if it's not them, everything should come down, and it is not good for the democracy we are practicing. The NDC has demonstrated over the years that when it comes to court, they don't respect.
The Honorable Afenyo Marking there. So you want to respond?
It was just some way of eating into my time, because he hasn't said anything. Do you think it's fair, the arguments that they are making, that you've benefited from court rulings in the past, but when it seems that this one does not favor you, you're agitating? You are not supposed to be benefiting from interpretation of the Constitution. We are all supposed to be pursuing what will build our democracy. So the fact that they see court ruling as interpretation of Constitution as benefiting them and not benefiting the rest of Ghanaians is in itself an admission that they think that they are taking political advantage of this thing. Because all of us, we want to see how we can interpret the rules that will help to build a democracy. But if it is the case that this ruling, as I have narrated, is all about 7-0, nobody hears any other person's argument, and I have said that if 2 people agree always, one is a liar. And you have 7 people always agreeing on 19 pages of judgment always. How can that be? At least let us hear how they argue the same case from different angles. It doesn't matter whether they arrive at the same conclusion. If they do, and we listen to all the 7 arguments and the conclusion is the same, that builds our confidence in the ruling.
You don't
but
think
where
this
you
helps
have
our democracy and our parliamentary
no,
sovereignty
it doesn't
in
at
any
all.
way?
It's just about getting a ruling that will favor some political. So that is why we are not listening, and that is why this idea of knowledge, a very important case like this, we should be hearing the judgment and the reasoning on the same day, leading to the conclusions, and everybody will be following. But you deliver a judgment, and then you go and listen to the reaction of people before you come and tell us this is the reason why I did this. That is why I believe the part of the last sentence is that even though we have ruled this way, it is up to Parliament to go and design. In what way is Parliament going to design any rules to make effect of this? And if they so value the principle of representation to the extent that they frown on momentary lack of representation where somebody is performing the duties of a speaker, why were they supportive of all these cases that deny the people of SAL, Central Kofi, Akpafu, Lolubi, and the effect of their various rulings is that they may not even have representation for 4 years. If you are frowning on somebody's lack of representation for some 1 hour, and the same set of Ghanaians, you have another group there who for 4 years will not have representation in Parliament, which is worse.
Mr. Johnson Asiedu Nketia, General Secretary of the NDC, is at the table with us this morning explaining why the minority and why the NDC is against what the Supreme Court ruled concerning the Deputy Speaker's voting rights. We are ready to hear your comments on our WhatsApp number 5555561034, and CAF is ready to tell us what you think. CAF?
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Asiedu Nketia. Hi, Thelma.
Hello.
Views expressed here are not my views or Thelma's or Mr. Nketia's. They are your views, all right? You'll be responsible for your views. Golden says, you can note how Mr. Akufo-Addo accepted the 2012 ruling, and also how JM accepted and cried about the 2020 ruling even when it was clear that we didn't submit any evidence in court. Does it really mean that we, the NDC, cry every time we don't get a ruling? That's Golden, obviously speaking as an MDC member. Viper says, good morning. Is democracy all about majority? That's a question he's asking there. The impeccable. Good morning, breakfast show team. On the ruling of the Supreme Court, clearly deputy speakers to retain both their original and casting votes. Does that mean the deputy speaker, while presiding, can also be part of the debate on the floor? That's a question that he's asking. Excuse me. Papa P wants to know why you are in a suit and we are in Ghana, but I think you are.
Because I'm pretending to be a governor.
He's pretending to be a colonial governor. All right, Papa P. So that is the response. That's why he's dressed like that. Somebody thinks you should be arrested for contempt by Supreme Court because nobody is above the law. You are telling the judges to do to do propaganda. That's his view. That's Chief Paul. You laugh. Nana Ekuyama says, Mr. Secretary, the NDC should sit up and stop blaming the judiciary led by the Chief Justice for their ineptitude. If you present a bad case to the court, what do you expect learned justices to do? Well, the person who submitted the case, is he an NDC member or is just a lawyer?
I think, I don't know.
Mr. Abdullahi, well, you don't know him.
Justice Abdullahi, he says he's also from Sekwa, just like you.
Oh, okay.
From Sekwa.
Yes. All right. More messages.
It's surprising that I don't know him.
Okay, so you are confirming that he's not a member of the NDC?
I don't know.
And the NDC did not put him up to this? You didn't pay for the case or contribute anything?
Why should we pay for any such case?
Okay.
More messages?
More messages.
Amos Azanu from Mafikumasi in Central Tong. Jerry Mosquito always speaks the truth. He's the god of democracy. Oh, wow. It's only in Ghana that you see the officiating referee dressed down to play the game instead of concentrating on refereeing. If the independent MP thinks he's been considered as the cornerstone of the NPP to pass the e-levy in favor of the super incompetent NPP government, he shouldn't forget the past humiliations he went through in the hands of those he's supporting now. It's early days yet. You normally hear that kind of language when you're doing football commentary. Okay. More messages. Oh, so many. Akasingbe says, you don't even know why we have invited political parties to discuss the Supreme Court judgment, which is final and binding. Well, it's for public education. That is why we've invited them here. If you want a response, you just got it from me. All right. Nana Ekuyama is saying that, well, he says, you're not a lawyer. We all know that. And we should give him support. Who should give him support? Because most people will believe him and think he really knows the workings of the Supreme Court. And he believes that you've made the MPP case stronger by not bringing in somebody who can talk about the law. What do you think about that, Mr. Assyrian Ketia? Hamza is watching us live from the Kwanta Oti region.
Not for lawyers.
He says the Supreme Court ruling is just a clear support for e-levy. Trisha says, when politicians are in opposition, they crowd foul. Ghanaians are too political. All we need is the best governance. So messages are coming in plenty. 055-556-1034. Keep them coming in. Thelma, I know you have more questions to ask.
I do indeed. And perhaps I'll pick your thoughts because someone brought it up on this ruling and assertions that, especially from the NDC side, that it's again to boost its e-levy conversations and to send it through Parliament.
Well, I won't begrudge anybody who concludes that because it is clear.
Is that what the NDC thinks the ruling
yes,
is, or a part of the argument?
Because this issue about quorum and the way the legal gymnastics have gone, it is very clear that it is in support of some government agenda, and that can only be the e-levy in our circumstances.
What do you think about the proposal, the e-levy proposal in general? What are your thoughts on what government is proposing?
Oh, are you hearing me? You want to find out? You don't know my thoughts.
I want to hear them.
I'm surprised that anybody in Ghana doesn't know that I'm so much against the e-levy. I led the demonstration. Didn't you see me? Didn't you cover the demonstration?
We did.
The reason why I support that, let me give you one reason. We cannot continue paying money to people who will be engaging in this, reckless expenditure and considering themselves to be above scrutiny. If we send somebody to the market with money, the person must come and account before we decide to give him more. Clearly, this government is preaching one thing and practicing another. The lifestyle of government and government functionaries is in no way suggestive that the nation is in any way, in any form of crisis at all. But we know that the nation is in crisis. And we think that the crisis go beyond passage or lack of it, of e-levy. And the passage of the e-levy, in many respects, can go to make the problem worse. So we think that we are in crisis. The government must accept that the nation is in crisis. Let us go down to the drawing board. Let us open the books. Because where we are now, half of all the money we collect, national revenue, goes into payment of interest on loans. Half. And close to the other half also goes into salaries. So there is nothing left for goods and services. There is nothing left for what do you call it? Development projects and other things, investments and other things. No country survive running like that. This e-levy, in the worst case, the best case scenario, will give us less than 7 billion. It cannot solve the problem. The only way they think e-levy can solve the problem is what Amwakwanta disclosed, that they can use the e-levy to pledge and take another big loan. But that loan will come and the relief will be temporary. And then you will go into bigger crisis. We are in this type of crisis, and if you are not careful, within a few months, even payment of salaries could be problematic. Within a few months, there could be a run on the country where our debtors will be chasing us. And it will not allow for our property outside to be seized. That is how deep the crisis is.
I've heard you make similar arguments at the demonstration and ahead of the demonstration. And you also called for broader consultations.
Yes.
So the reason I asked what your thoughts are on e-levy now is because I wanted to find out if those consultations that have been ongoing has shifted your thoughts, your original thoughts on the matter
no ongoing
in any way.
Government
has been moving from region to region, trying to explain some of these
to the
things.
people who will be voting. That exercise it amounts to a waste of money, waste of everybody's time, because you see, there is something that has moved on the floor of Parliament to a point of decision making. Are you saying that at the end of this consultation, they are going to withdraw that one so that the inputs they gather from will now be incorporated before it is presented? Is that what you are telling me? That is clearly not the case. So they are just wasting time everywhere. The inputs they gather will not find any space in what is before Parliament now, unless they withdraw it and repackage it. So what is the purpose of this thing? It's just propaganda gimmicks. It's not taking, and you go there, gather captive, people, captive audience, gather your people there, and then they will tell you what you want to hear, and then you come back and say that I have consulted the nation. That's not the type of consultation. That is not what is going to help us get out of the deep financial crisis. What will help us get out of the crisis, one of the things is for us to regain the confidence of the population itself and the confidence of the development partners, which is lost. The investment community has lost confidence in us because they think that when they give us money, we misuse it. And so the starting point is for us to go and then pursue those who have misused state funds and prevent those who continue to live in this profligacy. So if we are able to demonstrate that, then we will tell the investment community that we are aware of our problems and we are taking steps to address them. Why is it the government that thinks that we are in crisis, so they must go and ask people to pay more? When the people's representatives want to investigate the COVID expenditures, you see the representatives of the government. If you don't have anything to hide, why would you block an effort to investigate what has happened? If that is going to help to convince the people that you have nothing to hide, you are honest, all the expenditures were done properly and so on. But every effort to look for accountability is being blocked even when we are in crisis. And you are telling the people that we will not explain to you how we use your money, but we want you to pay more. Who does that?
Is it one of the reasons why the NDC wrote to the Commonwealth Parliament complaining or reporting what the NDC said was human rights infringements of the Akufo-Addo-led administration?
We wrote to I don't know whether we have Commonwealth Parliament. We wrote to
the Commonwealth Secretariat.
Commonwealth yeah, because the reason is that we are the Commonwealth is an association of independent sovereign states. They are no longer colonies under UK. So every country joins it out of their own free will because they subscribe to the ideals of the Commonwealth. So there's a charter for good governance and the things every Commonwealth member should follow. So at any point in time, if any Commonwealth member is deviating from the governance charter, then the attention of Commonwealth should be drawn to it.
Did you try doing this internally? Some suggest that perhaps Christian Council and other bodies could have been brought into the matter to resolve them before being sent
we are complaining
out
about,
there.
We have exhausted all of them. All the things we have complained about, we have exhausted all. Were you not here when we spent about 3 months with Peace Council talking about vigilantism and the fact that the vigilantes are being embedded in the state security agencies under cover that government was scrapping vigilante, MPP was scrapping the MPP vigilantes. You were here, you followed what happened. You followed all the things we said. The result is what you are seeing now. There's a universal law that states that you have the right to choose your course of action. The right of choice is given to every individual, every country, every organization. You have the right to choose, but you have no right to determine the consequences of your choice. When you make a choice, it comes with its consequences. So if you choose that we would set aside all the laws and regulations and practices and procedures for recruiting people into our security services, and because we have power, we will incorporate vigilantes into the police. We will incorporate vigilantes into the army because they are our people, they help us achieve certain things. You may have some relief that you are helping your party people, but you are responsible for governing this country. And when they begin misbehaving within the security services, you have to deal with. That is what we are dealing with now. The SWAT team, the ML Short commission concluded that SWAT team should be disbanded because the SWAT was started under our administration, and we did not go to recruit fresh people to train them.
Right.
It was made up of people we have taken from the army, from the other existing security services. So they all have their mother units, and you bring them together when there is some operation to be done. You call, and then they gather, and then you use them for that as like a rapid response thing. Then you come and decide to establish an illegal army at the national security, recruiting all your vigilante people, training them 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and then some with earrings, and you put them there, you give them a police uniform. But the people who were deployed to cause mayhem at Ayawaso, the Emil Short Commission recommended that thing should be disbanded. They refused. Government didn't do anything about it. They were deployed in Techiman, in the Banda, and other places, and they created all these problems. At that time, the victims were NDC people, so it was all right. Now that dog is eating dog, you are complaining.
Mr. Nketia, let me pick your thoughts.
Any revolution that finishes dealing with its opponents will begin dealing with its own members. That is what is happening, and it's very, very dangerous. I kept citing Togo and other places that if anybody thinks that recruitment into the security services on the base of ethnicity, on the base of politics, on the base of will serve any interest, if it will serve any interest at all, that interest will be temporary. It is a time bomb. The earlier we dealt with it, the better it will be for our democracy.
You spoke about choices in this submission,
yeah.
And I wonder if the NDC could have joined this suit, considering the implications of the ruling for the minority side of the House, or whether it could have been that the Speaker himself could have come onto the case filed by Justice Abdullahi to make their own case. Like you said, you have an understanding of the Constitution. Was there a point where you thought you could join this, or could you have done so?
We didn't think that the provision that they asked for interpretation needed any interpretation. It was very clear. Even Joe Wise himself, on the floor of Parliament, that the rules are very clear, that anybody presiding has no vote. He said it is on tape there. So what was that person pursuing? Because there was nothing. You go to Supreme Court to seek interpretation when there are gray areas that you don't understand.
You didn't think there was a gray area?
There was no gray area at all. This is an attempt to turn the Constitution around to favor some political interest. But when these things happen, if we are mindful of precedent, it will catch up on them very soon. You remember this matter about SAL. I'm here, it is in court, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. You remember when President Kufuor decided to create constituencies, there was a matter that was because we cited this same provision of the Constitution that said that when you create a new constituency, it cannot be used for the election ahead of you until after one election. We kept saying this thing. Somebody went to court. Then the Supreme Court threw away the case because of procedural reasons. And we said that, look, they have not helped the development of the law. If they had gone into the merits of the case and argued it out, this is our problem.
Could have been avoided?
Could have been avoided. Then it was convenient to just find technical reasons to throw away the case. So because of that, President Kufuor created 30 constituencies, and they were used in that same election. To be fair to people like Arocha, may his soul rest in peace, he differed from his own party's position and kept repeating it that what they were doing was wrong. The government at that time didn't buy. We went into the elections with 30 more constituencies created about 6 months or so before that election. Then NDC also came to power and also created more, and they were now using that same argument. Nobody buys. So those ones also went this thing. Now that is the problem that we are having. Now people are citing that to say that SAL has been what is that? I've forgotten the name of the new constitution. It has been created. Not Buim.
Is it the Guan?
Guan has been created, and it will take another election. The precedents you said. Kufuor created 30 constituencies. They were used in that same election. NDC created more constituencies. They were used in that same election. How come that Guan has been created and Guan cannot be used? It couldn't have been used in 2020. And even after 2020, they are being told that they must wait for another 4 years before an election is done there for them to get representation.
Mr. Sedinkese, your final thoughts. Do you think that the plaintiff should go for a review, and if he doesn't, would the NDC consider taking that matter up for...
Why should NDC take that matter up?
Okay.
The plaintiff, if he feels
aggrieved,
can pursue his own case. Why are we going to take it out? We, as far as I'm concerned, we wait and see how it will be practicalized. And the absurdities will show. The absurdities will show.
Thank you, Mr. Nketia, for being a part of our show this morning. Mr. Johnson Asiedu Nketia is the General Secretary of the NDC, and he's been speaking to us about his thoughts on the Supreme Court ruling regarding the voting rights of deputy speakers in Parliament. We appreciate the thoughts that you sent across our WhatsApp number and our social media platforms, and we hope to come your way again tomorrow with another exciting edition of Breakfast on GTV. We'll end the show, pull the curtain down here, and we'll see you at 5:55 bright and early tomorrow morning. Thanks to our sponsors, Adonko Next Level Energy Drink and Awake Purified Water, also Rit Cultural for our outfits today. Have a pleasant day.